And we're live. Today is Monday, May 18th, and you're tuned in to NEZ SEZ, a place where musicians can come together and inspire each other to play more guitar. Thanks all for being here on this very special evening. My name is David, and this is my co-host Ty. How you doing, Ty?
I'm good, Dave. Thanks for this very special Monday night edition of NEZ SEZ, and I'm excited to be here with you, and excited to be here with our very special guest tonight. I'm so excited to introduce this man. He is a guitar hero among guitar virtuosos. He is a Dave and I have had the pleasure of getting to know Johnny a little bit prior to this conversation tonight. And he is a self-described hairy-legged guitar picker, but he is so much more than that. Johnny Hiland is truly one of the greatest guitar players walking the face of the earth. He has an extraordinary story, which contain some common threads. Those common threads woven throughout his life and throughout his career, those of strength, perseverance, and success. Since birth, Johnny has lived with a rare eye disease that has rendered him legally blind. And originally from Maine, he developed a deep love of bluegrass music. He began playing guitar at 2 years old. He was playing in talent shows at 5 and performing on television by the age of 7. His father took him to see Ricky Skaggs for the first time, and Johnny immediately went from picking bluegrass to picking an electric guitar. He moved to Nashville in '96, and in a town full of great players, Johnny proved he was among the elite in a very short amount of time. Wearing an Atwood cowboy hat and Ariat boots, Johnny has performed on stage with super artists like Sammy Hagar, Ted Nugent, George Clinton, the late great Les Paul himself, Steve Vai, Joe Bonamassa, Don Kelly, Toby Keith, Hank III, Hal Ketchum, Guthrie Govan, and Joe Satriani. In fact, Ricky Skaggs once said, I quote, "I think Johnny Hiland is the most versatile guitar player I've ever heard. From Bill Monroe to Eddie Van Halen, he can play it all," end quote. And tonight on NEZ SEZ, we are very fortunate to be able to introduce you all to Mr. Johnny Hiland, an artist, a performer, a session player, a teacher, and one of the most generous, most humble people you could ever hope to meet. Johnny, welcome to our show.
Welcome, Johnny.
Appreciate that, brother. Thanks for having me on. You and Dave both, man. It's a real pleasure to be here.
It's our pleasure to have you here.
The pleasure is ours. So, Johnny, was that your big moment? Was that your big guitar moment when your father took you to see Ricky Skaggs? Even though you had been playing before and you had won a very prestigious talent contest at the age of 10. Was Ricky Skaggs your moment?
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, he jumped up on the PA sub, man, with his purple Glazier telly and just proceeded to rip my face off. And I said, "Dad, I'm sorry, but the old Gibson's got to go in the closet, and the Martins, I need an electric guitar now."
Uh-huh.
I mean, sure.
And so this love that you had of bluegrass music, where did that love of bluegrass come from, Johnny?
8-track tapes, man, from my grandfather. I had everything from Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs to Bill Monroe to you name it, brother. I had all kinds of bluegrass records when I was a kid. And 8-track tapes, those were my thing back in the day. And not giving my age away or nothing, but I also loved, George Jones, Merle Haggard, Webb Pierce, Waylon Jennings, all the, I was a big Dukes of Hazzard fan when I was a kid and loved the Nashville Network, TNN. So I was watching all the shows and Austin City Limits as a kid. And so I had a lot of music around me, man, and a lot of 8-track tapes and records. And yeah, man, I was very, very inspired as a kid by music for sure.
And at such an early age, I mean, you were really committed early.
Yeah, man. Well, I kind of had to be. I had one brother and one sister, and Jody was into like New Kids on the Block and Wham, and my mom was into like Christopher Cross and the Forrester Sisters, and And my dad was into like Skinner and Blackfoot and the Outlaws, and my brother was a rap head, 9 Inch Nails, stuff like that. And so, man, I was just all over the place, man. But country music was definitely my my go-to for any kind of enjoyment in listening or learning, for sure.
Well, we look forward to jumping into your career and how you develop such a unique playing style that covers a wide range of genres. I mean, you seem to check a lot of boxes with adapting your playing style to a lot of different things. Dave, do you want to say hello to everybody in the chat?
Yeah. Let's say hello.
We got quite a few people.
All right. So Headstock Harem was the first person in here. Hello. Mike Neese, Wayne Akuri, Ty Price is in here. My lovely fiance Desiree Dornan is here. My lovely father Richard Nesdall is here. Hello, Dad. Bull Hunter 45 says, "Blessed evening, Dave and Ty. Christopher in Costa Rica. Love you, Johnny."
Yeah, Christopher's a good guy, man. He's a big fan and a dear friend.
Yeah. Thomas Santiago is here. Matthew Stewart. Steve Carmichael says, "Hi, Johnny. Love your music. Great rig rundown, too."
Oh, thank you, man. Thanks so much.
Sean Zimmerman, Chris Bevan. Dry Heat 480 is here. Scott Chapin. I hope I said that correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. Hugh Caldwell. Papa Blue. And we're all caught up for the Frank Corcoran is here. We're all caught up for the moment. And as people pile in, we'll say hello to more people.
Yeah. Hey, Sean. Hey, Thomas. So, Johnny, I've got to ask, and do you remember what that first guitar was that you were playing at such a young age? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, man. I started off my career. My mom had an old guitar that just sat in the corner, and when my parents found that I had an interest, I was about 2.5 years old, and my Aunt Brenda come bringing my dad a 1939 J35 Jumbo Gibson that belonged to his father, who I was actually named after. His name was John William Hiland, and of course mine's John Edward Hiland. I took my dad's middle name. And but of course, being a family heirloom, it kind of stayed in Dad's room. But you know, it didn't take long, man, and Dad saw me sneaking in his bedroom to try to pull that old Gibson out, man. And you know, it had sat in my aunt's attic for years, so it was all beat up, and but I just fell in love with it, man. I was like Linus with a security blanket off Peanuts, man. I just had to be with that guitar. And
Beautiful.
So Dad would tune it to an open E chord, man, and I learned to play kind of like Jeff Healey, you know, but using my thumb on my left hand, you know, to bar chords and stuff like that. So that's how I played up until I was like 10 years old, man. I played using the thumb. So, but yeah, that old guitar is still with me to this day, man. And of course, I know Grampy John would be really tickled knowing how many records I've played that old guitar on and how many shows it's done and stuff like that. But my first electric guitar, man, was after seeing Ricky Skaggs play at the Bangor Auditorium when I was 10. And my dad pulled me out of junior high, man, for a half a day and drove me to Bangor, Maine, which was about 2 hours from our home. And, you know, after seeing Ricky, man, I was just dying for a Telecaster, you know. But my dad was definitely a dad that wanted to buy American. He didn't want to buy guitars that were made in any other country at all. And God love Dad for that, you know. But Northern Kingdom at the time did not have any USA-made Telecasters at all. And so Dana Flood, the owner of Northern Kingdom Music, or the manager there, he told my dad, he said, "Well, I got some really nice Strats." And I'm like, man, I don't want no Strat, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But after him showing me a bunch of pictures of Jimi Hendrix and Clapton and Stevie Ray and all these, you know, Mark Knopfler, all these guys that have played Strat style guitars through the years, I said, yeah, man, that'd be pretty cool, you know. So I ended up with a 1987 USA charcoal gray Strat with a maple neck, and I still have that guitar too.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Although I must say, boys, it's been Frankenstein a bit over the years. That guitar
Sure.
changed a lot.
You made it yours.
I did.
It's what we all do. We all do it.
And Reggie Young made it okay to play a Stratocaster in country music.
He sure did, man. He sure did. That's the truth.
I mean, have you ever heard anybody play a better ballad than Reggie Young?
Never in this world, brother, and probably never again. Reggie was just absolutely the bomb.
You know, I was going to say Albert Lee as well, although he played tellies mostly, but when he went to Music Man, his model, although it's odd looking, is a Stratocaster.
Pretty much, man. And I have to say, I've kind of gone that way myself, just for versatility, Dave, honestly.
Yeah.
I think Albert and I kind of did the same thing, man. I mean, obviously the T-style bridge pickup, but then the Strat middle position and neck sound. So yeah, definitely, it definitely takes a T-style guitar and makes it a lot more versatile. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I mean, when did you start? Or so you get the electric guitar, and I know prior to you moving to Nashville that you had a band and you were playing out with standing room only.
Yes.
I mean, how long were you doing that, and how were you developing your musical prowess during that time?
You know, Ty, I have to say, man, my dear friend Mr. Sid MacArthur moved to Nashville with me after being in standing room only with me all those years. I remember him showing up on my doorstep, man, in our trailer in Baileyville, Maine, and told my dad, he said, man, my guitar player's sick. Could Johnny come play this gig at the Rod and Gun Club on Saturday night in Princeton? And my dad's like, man, Johnny's 12, you know, he's got homework. He's, you know, like, please, man, please, I need a guitar player so badly, man. And Dad's like, well, you know, what do you think, son? I said, well, I'm not really much of a lead player, but I'll try. And Sid was, but by that time though, Ty, I had already been jamming to a lot of country records, you know, but Sid was really the first guy in my life to really be a good band leader, in that he wanted me to learn pretty much everything just like the record. And we were a 3-piece band, bass, drums, and guitar. So I had to do all the rhythms, all the fills, all the harmony vocals, all the leads, of course. And so it was a pretty tough job, man. But I really do believe that playing with Sid MacArthur and John Niels in that little 3-piece band all through my teen years, it really gave me a good foundation to start from in becoming a good guitar player, because it made me do a lot more work.
Sure.
You got to thank God for those beginnings, because you might not have turned out the same way you did now as you are now if you didn't start there.
That's very true, Dave. I will say, man, it's fun playing 3-piece. But boy, when I hit Nashville, though, guys, that was like, woo! I mean, it was a big shock for me to, you know, I had steel players and fiddle players go, man, that bugger overplays, man. Woo! You know.
Yeah.
In a 3-piece band, I had to learn how to let other guys take fills and solos and stuff, and just play my part, you know. So it was helpful, but yet at the same time, it was like, oh man, that was the first criticism I got in Nashville. Was, boy, that booger overplays, man.
Johnny, you mentioned the trio, and you mentioned how that really sharpened your chops. I've seen you play in a lot of 4-piece bands too. And then the first
Yes.
record that you did in 2004 that we're going to get to, I mean, I think that's a 4-piece band. I mean, you had I'm trying to think of the keyboard player that you had on that record, Holloman. So you were recording with a keyboard player too, and I've seen you with a pedal steel and that type of thing. So which format do you prefer, the trio or the 4-piece?
No, well, you know, man, when I started my career, obviously, I wanted 4 pieces. I didn't want to have to do everything on my own. And it was kind of like when, and of course, not putting myself in Stevie Ray's category, but I remember when Reese joined, you know, the Stevie Ray band, Double Trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It freed Stevie up. It gave me more room, you know. And so I really do believe that when I started my band, the Johnny Hiland band, after getting my career off the ground, I wanted to make sure I at least had a 4-piece. You know, obviously, I think doing club dates and stuff, you know, you make more money when you got fewer members in the band. But but I know for me, you know, when I started putting out records and going on the road, I definitely wanted to either have a keyboard player or a you know, a second rhythm guitar player or something, you know.
Yes. Real quick in the chat, my buddy Len Camp says, "Hey boys, just want to say I listened to Johnny, and I'm bewildered beyond belief at his speed, taste, and touch. And afterward, I want to sell all my entire collection.
Oh man,
You're the man, Johnny." Lenny.
thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that. I really do. But don't sell your guitars, though, man. They're too priceless, man. You got to keep them. You know, I've named all my guitars, man. They all have names.
That's awesome.
That
Let's
is
say
awesome.
let's say hello to a couple more people real quick.
Sure.
708, my good buddy Jay from the Johnny Bean Show. I do another show with my buddy Jay and Johnny Bean on Friday nights, and we do more of a rock thing. But he's here saying hello to us. Gabriel Tone Guitars is here. Charlie Frappier is here. Please forgive me if I said that wrong. Terry Himes is here.
Cool.
Let's see who else. Mitch Heyman is here. Donnie Laviette is here. One second. Charlie S is here. And more people will be piling in soon.
Man, that's so cool.
It's about dinner time right now, so people start piling in a few minutes. But thanks to everybody for coming here tonight and joining us with Johnny. We're gonna have a lot of stories, maybe a tour of his music dungeon, and we'll take a look at some of his guitars, and it'll be a great time.
It's gonna be fun, man. I can tell you that. We, you know, I want to just let everybody know, man, how grateful I am to have so many friends around the world and fans. Because if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't do what I do. And I mean that sincerely. So I thank everybody that's tuned in tonight.
Well,
Yes,
we are very thankful that you do what you do,
Yeah.
Johnny. So you're playing with standing room only, and you're going through high school, and you graduate high school, and you're on your way to college, and tell us about that decision to pursue a formal education.
Well, you know, man, my mom and dad were very strict parents. As far as my dad always had the, you know, he always told me, son, you don't pay, you play. So I'll have great grades. If you got anything below a B, you better do some explaining fast. And of course, so I mean, I was, you know, president of the National Honor Society in high school and first honor essay in my class, and then I went on to 3 years at the University of Southern Maine and studying to be an elementary school teacher. But my major was history. I loved Civil War history, and but to be honest with you, man, after 3 years, people don't realize, or my mom and dad never realized, and God love them, they're both passed now. But they, you know, they and the state of Maine were really particular about what I did. And of course, all through my school years, my dad was very, you know, son, you need to learn every instrument in the high school band so that you can become a band teacher, you know, in school and do stuff like that, you know. And so I really feel like my formal education really came from my mom and dad being strict with me. I mean, I was the kid that loved the honky tonk life and learning George Jones tunes and Merle Haggard tunes, and so, you know. But I give my parents a lot of credit. They were hard on us, but yet it really paid off in the end. Excuse me. But now to get into my college years, what they didn't realize was I was playing guitar about 16 hours a day then, and so I was just, you know, loving life. You know, and of course, still got my study, still pulled a great GPA. But after 3 years of that, guys, and realizing what teachers up in the state of Maine made for a living, I was like, no, man, I'm going to Nashville. And I was really shocked that my parents were really angry with my decision, knowing how much my dream had been to go to Nashville when I was a kid. And working so hard to be, you know, to be a good guitar player. And you know, they knew that I had wanted to be a session player and you know, worked hard on rock chops and blues playing and Western swing as much as my chicken picking and stuff like that. So I really kind of, you know, it weirded me out when they got so angry. I guess they just wanted me to finish college and then go to Nashville after. But that's pretty hard for a blind boy in college. I got to be honest.
So your parents never saw that coming, Johnny. I mean, you had been up until that point, you had been playing for so long, you'd been publicly playing for so long, and yet it still caught them by surprise that you wanted to pursue this professionally.
Well, I think they were just shocked that, honestly, Ty, that I left college early.
Okay.
I think that was their major gripe.
I think that's all parents' gripe. They want you to go. They all want their children to go to college and have something to, if you're playing music, they want you to have something to fall back on.
Yes. And so I don't blame them for being angry, but yet, for the first couple of years I was in Nashville, it was, I was thankful to have Sid. And the funny thing is, guys, he called me 2 weeks before moving and said, man, I've just been to Nashville, dude. I'm living in Orlando now. Fly down here, man, and we'll go to Nashville together. So, I mean, how much of a blessing was that, So I had Sid to go to Nashville with. And, man, literally, we drove into Nashville in a Pontiac T1000, man. You couldn't have put a letter from home in. It was so packed.
Wow.
And, yeah, man, it was just stuffed to the gunnels with gear and clothes and whatever, Looked like the Beverly Hillbillies go to Maui, man. I mean, we had boots hanging out the windows, and it was just crazy fun. But to be honest, it was we roughed it, man. But by the second day in Nashville, we had our first paying gig in Nashville. So
wow,
it was pretty amazing, and I had worked there for 22 years before moving here to Chatham. So
what was the goal, Johnny, when you packed the Pontiac and you were heading to Nashville? What was the I'm sure you had several goals, but what was the first one? What was the what did you say? Okay, here's the first thing I'm going to do when I get there.
Honestly, Ty, I didn't know, brother. All I knew is I wanted to be in Music City, USA. And I wanted people to, in Nashville to know that, hey, this blind kid from Maine is here and he's ready to, tear the roadhouse down. I just wanted to play as hard as I could and get known as fast as I could in Nashville. That was my ultimate goal at first.
That's a great goal. That's that makes sense that should be the first goal too, because you definitely want everyone to notice you as fast as possible and get started.
Well, and honestly, I really didn't know how many facets there were to the guitar business or guitar industry. I was pretty naive about it. I thought, man, just being a honky-tonk picker would be fine with me, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have my sights set too high when I first went. I just thought, man, if I can get into Nashville, show people that I can pick, hopefully word will get around, might get hired for a few sessions, and that might open a door too. But I really put a lot of prayer and a lot of faith in the good Lord above, knowing that I had really been given this gift to play, and I just knew that Nashville was where I needed to be, and that was really as simple as that.
So, Johnny, you're within the first 48 hours of being in Nashville, you get your first gig. Do you happen to remember where that was?
Oh yes, sir. The world famous Turf on Lower Broadway.
Lower Broadway, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, man, Sid and I were staying at the Metro Motel on Dickerson Road. Sleeping in Kroger parking lot some night in the Pontiac, and we were roughing it, man. But I'll say I don't regret any of those times, man. Sid was he's always been family to me, and I just love the man to death. He's still to me one of the most amazing country singers and bass players out there. He's as country as a possum fart, boys. That's the truth.
That's fantastic. That's great.
Johnny, how long were you in Nashville before you worked your way into in with Don Kelly?
Well, in 1998, guys, I moved there in August of '96. I played the world famous Turf and Maggie McGee's. Did some gigs at Wolfie's. Played up at Barbara's up in Printer's Alley. So just kind of playing around town, getting the word out, that I was there and just moved there and stuff. And in 1998, though, a major tornado hit Nashville.
Right.
And I was living at a place called James Robertson Apartments, which was up on 7th Avenue, just up above where Lower Broadway and all the clubs started.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, man, I remember not having a cell phone, not even really having a home phone. There was a payphone downstairs in the apartment complex. And to be honest with you, man, I remember calling the drummer that night. That was our drummer for the Turf. And I called him. I said, "Hey, Jerry, man, I know this big old tornado hit, but do we still have a gig tonight?" And he's like, "Son, there's no club."
Oh,
It tore the club completely.
wow.
Thankful, man, because I used to leave my gear downtown because I was playing, every day. But I had just taken my gear home, and when the tornado hit, I had all my gear at home. But he had lost like an old Slingerland drum set, and like, Frank Parrish, the owner of the Turf, had lost his steel, and there was all kinds of gear lost. But thankfully, I had all my gear. But he said, "Yeah, man, the tornado just tore the club down." So I started playing over at Legends Corner across the street with a gal named Christy Quick, and Sid and I were playing that gig with her. And then I met Ronnie Lutrick, who has played in the Johnny Hiland band. We did the Blues Connection record together. Ronnie's just such a dear friend and just a monster singer, bass player, and always a family member, dear friend, But he played with Don at the time, and would come in and watch me play. And then finally he brought Don in to hear me. And next thing I know, I was subbing for Red Vocart with Don.
Okay.
At the Merle Haggard gig. And so I remember, I'll never forget it, boys. I remember the night that we were playing a 6 to 10. That was the shift we always played with Don. And I remember the night that Don said, well, hell, I'd give the gig to the boy if he'd just take it. As we were setting up our gear. And I was just, I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take it. You don't have to twist my arm, son, But, yeah, I'll never forget that, boys. And I played with Don for 5.5 years. And that gig was very pivotal in my career. I really give Don Kelly a lot of credit and a lot of thanks, man. He was the man that really got heavy with me when it came to tone, how to set my rig, not playing too loud, knowing when to play and when not to play. Boys, there'd even be nights he'd go upstairs to count the tips, him and Uncle Artie, and he'd hand me my money and say, "Here, boy, take this money and go home and buy yourself a tone."
That's very funny.
Nothing will humble you any more than a man telling you that. That's for sure. But I got to say, boys, the best country music you'd ever want to hear in your life, and I was so proud to be a part of that band. And, of course, like I said, Ronnie Lutrick and I have hung in there as family members all since that band. Don and I, too. I just talked to Don last week, actually. We all still keep in contact via Facebook or on the phone or whatever. And, of course, Ronnie did the Blues Connection record with me after my mom died. And so we've had an amazing, amazing friendship, all of us guys in that band, and it still goes on to this day.
So Red was there before you, and then Red went out with Haggard, and you came in and got that gig. Do you remember what you were playing with Don Kelly? What kind of guitar? What the rig was? What the guitar was?
Oh, absolutely, man. I moved to Nashville with the Strat, of course, and I had bought a $300 USA Tele from the Uncle Henry magazine up in Maine before moving down there. And it was a Sunburst Tele with a rosewood fingerboard, which I really didn't like rosewood at all. And as a blind guy, I couldn't see them on stage very well. But that's all I could afford at the time. So, but I remember playing with Don. I had my PV amp that I had used. I always used solid state PVs, man. That's what we used up in Maine.
Uh-huh.
And at the Turf for the first couple of years, that's what I used. Well, I remember catching my stereo chorus 212 on fire there at the Turf. And something happened. Started gushing out of it. And so from Red Vocart, I bought a Music Man RD112, single 12-inch speaker, 100 watts. And I played that little amp, and I had the Red Vocart School of Broadway boot camp, if you will. I had his style pedal board, which was a three pedal Boss box that had the old TU-8 tuner that wasn't the pedal tuner. It was that long silver one with the orange face.
Sure.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
On CS3, I had a blues driver, and I had the old red analog delay that Boss made back in the day.
Sure.
And then of course I had bought a well, I'll share this story too, guys. That old Sunburst telly, you know, instantly when you move to Nashville, you learn who Joe Glazier is.
Sure. Yeah.
So your telly would go out of whack. You'd take it over to Joe's, and finally, man, I noticed I was having some issues with that telly, and I said, well, I just can't keep this thing in, man. The intonation's all wonky on it. And Joe finally said to me, he said, son, he said, every, when you stick the strings through the body, he said, man, they're all stripped out, and they got gouges in them where strings have been through it so many years. And he said, son, I hate to say this, but all the bolts holding the neck on are being stripped out too. He said, I don't know, man, if this guitar is salvageable without a crap ton of Bondo.
Wow.
And so my dear friend, Mr. Kevin O'Donnell, sold me one of the old Fender B-Bender tellies. It was like a canary yellow. And that thing weighed like 12 pounds, boys. And I'll tell you what, lean like this all the time from that telly just wearing my shoulder flat dog out.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, I got into the B-Bender, man, until I finally realized that I just started losing all my chops because I relied on the bender. And so I shut the bender off in it, and then finally got me another telly after that. And then, of course, signed on with Fender once my career got going and ended up with a gold sparkle. But yeah, so the Music Man amp, the little triple Boss box, and a good old Fender telly with some Seymour Duncan antiquities in it.
Do you still have any of those guitars you just told us about?
Nope, all gone. The B-Bender telly was just so heavy, brother. What I did is I swapped it in for a 1998 collector's edition telly that literally weighed about 5.3 pounds.
Wow.
And my buddy Dion Edge, who teched for me when I first got to Nashville,
good friend of mine.
Yeah, Dion ended up with that guitar. He still got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dion's a very, very good friend of mine, and boy, his guitar collection is humongous.
Oh, he's got a few old guitars that belong to me, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I know
Wonderful
he's got
guy.
PRSs I had, and got that old 98 collector's edition. I know he's got those too. But yeah, Dion's just a wonderful cat, man. Great friend of mine. I've known Dion well over 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
My friend Len Camp says, Johnny, the only thing more dangerous than you with six strings is you on stage with Brent Mason. You rock. You kick each other. You kick each other pretty good. What a rush.
You know, man, Brent Mason is obviously the most recorded guitar player in country music history. But I gotta say, as a friend, he's one of the best, man. I mean, not only one of the best guitar players on the entire planet, but obviously a wonderful person, and just been so proud to get to know him and Julie over the years, and get on stage with him a time or two, and
yeah.
Because really at the end of the day, guys, I know there's a lot of people that, oh man, you're up against Brent Mason and Albert Lee and James Burton and Scotty Anderson and all these guys, but to be frankly honest, man, we're all buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And really, what sense is there playing music if you can't have fun while you're doing it, right?
That's true. Very true. Johnny, real quick, I just want to introduce you to my buddy Cameron Brown. He's in the chat. He's one of the best new guitar players on the planet, actually. He's from Scotland. He's just, I can't say enough good things about him. If you YouTube him at some point or listen to him play, his name is Cameron Brown.
Cameron, I'll listen to you, brother.
Yeah, he's a John Suhr endorsee and a Friedman endorsee. He's really amazing guitar player, and he says Johnny is such a badass, incredible guitar player.
Oh, thank you, Cameron. I appreciate that. And I think I've already heard of Cameron now that I'm thinking about it. I think I saw him do a Friedman amp demo, and I was like, who is that dude?
Yeah.
So, I think I've already seen you play, brother, and yes, you're a beast, man, for sure.
Yeah. Kelly Powers in the chat says, Johnny, I became a country musician after hearing the Hank 3 records you're playing on his record. Your playing on his record was a huge part of that sound. Are you still in touch, and chance you might record with him again?
Absolutely, man. As long as Hank 3 will have me, I'll do it because I love him to death. And obviously a country music icon too, man. Part of one of the biggest families in country music, the Williams family. But to be honest with you, man, this is in connection to the Don Kelly story, guys. I remember when way back, guys, I'd been to Nashville a couple of years playing with Don, and I kind of was depressed one night sitting at the bar there after playing, and I just told Hank, I didn't even really know him at the time. He was sitting at the end of the bar, and I was talking to Gail Norman, or one of the bartenders at Roberts, and I said, I'm thinking about packing it up and heading back to Maine, finishing school, whatever. And, I've been on the phone with my parents, and they were griping me out, and so I, just had one of those bummed out days, missing home, missing the family, and all of a sudden I feel this arm come around me, and he said, I better not ever hear that come out of your mouth again. And it was Hank 3. And he said, man, I'm over doing a tribute show to my granddaddy at the Ryman, man. And he's like, dude, you've got to stay in this town, man. You got to stick with it, son. He said, you're going to have the best years of your life here, man. You're going to have a great time. And he was one of the, between him and Ronnie Lutrick, they were the guys that kept me in Nashville during those starter years, I call them. And, but it was funny now connecting that story with Don. As I started playing with Don at Roberts, he would, pop in and out of the club, and watch me play and stuff. And I remember when he signed to Curb Records, or I think it's Curb that he's with, but anyway, his first album came out. And oh man, I got on him, boys. I said, look at him over there, Hank 3. It wouldn't even get me to play on his record. They had to get so and so to play on his record, but couldn't come ask the boy down here at Roberts to riff on it. I was just giving him just a bunch of crap that day, man. He said, Johnny, I promise you, dude, the label, when you sign on with the label, they have pretty much control over who plays on the first record. But he's like, man, I promise you, I will get you on a record real soon. Man, I have played on pretty much every Hank 3 country record since that first one.
How about that?
That's amazing.
He has been a man of his word and a dear friend. And I even went out on the road with Hank, played about 5 or 6 dates with him a few years back and had a good time, man. He's just a wonderful guy. And like I said, I'll always be a fan of his music, whether he hires me to play again or not. He'll always be a dear friend. So
that's great.
I love Hank 3 and thank you for writing that in.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Hank 3, one of the artists still producing country music.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that.
We're going to talk about that evolution of country music because I'm sure during your 22 years of Nashville, you saw an awful lot of evolution in country music and the way it was not only written and performed, but the way it was represented.
Yes, man. I got to say, boys, it was I guess change is inevitable, and you just never know when change is going to just pile drive you right in the head, And I really do. I really can tell you, in the 22 years I was in Nashville, yes, there were several changes that really had an impact on all of us pickers in town. So it's we'll definitely get into that, man, for sure. So
you had a big week in 1999 where you we talked about achievement and success being they're common threads in your personal and your professional life, and you had a 2-week period there where you checked off a lot of boxes.
Tell you what, you talk about a whirlwind, man. I was playing with Don Kelly, and the beautiful thing about playing with Don, man, was all the, during the wintertime, the Grand Ole Opry would take the show back down to the Ryman Auditorium, which the back door of the Ryman Auditorium, if you walk down the back steps of the Ryman, you were right at the back door to Robert's Western World. So, man, we'd have Jack Green stop by and get up and sing with us and play, and Rhonda Vincent would come in, Mike Snyder, a lot of the Opry folks, and watch us play. And I even got told by Mr. Vince Gill a few times. He popped in up back and watched me play a time or two. Had no idea until Vince played on, until we got a chance to hang out, when he played on Chicken Pickin' Heroes. But, a lot of people came into Roberts. But one night, I'll never forget it, boys. Gary Chapman was doing a show in Nashville on TNN at the time called Primetime Country.
I remember it.
You know, of course, he was married to Amy Grant at the time. You know, big gospel career as well, and you know, I was such a big fan of the show. You know, really, and so Gary come into Roberts, and I was just like, man, so cool, you know, to see Gary come in. And next thing I know, man, we finish up the show, and Gary, you know, come up to me, shook my hand, and he said, boy, I'd love to get you on Primetime Country. And I'm thinking, why me? Why not Don's whole band? You know, why me? I don't understand. He said, boy, I just love how you tear that guitar up, son. I'd love to get you on Primetime. That would be just so awesome, brother. And he said, but we need something to talk about. And I said, yeah, you got the wrong guy for that, because I don't have a record deal. I don't, you know, I'm pretty new to town, just a couple of years here, man. And you know, playing with Don is what I'm doing. He said, well, boy, why don't you, he said, we're going to do the taping next Tuesday or whatever. And he said, man, why don't you come play with me at the Ryman Sunday night? I'm doing a gospel show there called Sam's Place, Music for the Spirit. And I said, well, gosh, man, that'd be amazing, man. What would you want me to do on there, Gary? And he said, why don't you come out and sing That's All Right, Mama? And for most of you folks out there watching, know I did That's All Right, Mama in Don's band and recorded that on one of the first Don Kelly records. And I said, you want me to do That's All Right, Mama on a gospel show? He's like, yeah, man, of course. So I remember, boys, going over to the Ryman, and to believe it or not, guys, I got my first stand and O at the Ryman Auditorium. And of course that gave Gary and I, you know, amazing talking points when I was on Primetime. And my mom, you know, flew in for the show and stuff, my cousin Jocelyn. And so it was really cool to have the folks down. My dad obviously had to work. He was a journeyman pipe fitter welder for GP Paper Mill up there, so they wouldn't let him off work. But so after playing Primetime, man, it was just amazing. I, you know, have a cell phone, didn't have a home phone much. And so I was walking down to Roberts one afternoon after the Primetime taping, and my mom flew home. And Owen, the security guard from the Ryman Auditorium, come and grabbed me in front of Roberts and said, boy, you need to come with me. And I'm thinking, oh, crap, what did I do? You know, am I getting in trouble or what? You know, and I was going, oh, I got to be back here by 5:45, man. I start with Don at 6. He's like, boy, you got a phone call. And I'm thinking, a phone call at the Ryman?
That's hilarious.
Run up those steps, boy, and grab that telephone. I said, all right. So I remember going up those back steps and thinking, Lord, I'm going to miss Don's gig. He's going to be mad at me, Lord. So I pick up the phone and I hear, I said, hi, this is Johnny Hiland. And I heard, hi, this is Trish. I'm the secretary to Mr. Buchanan, the president of the Grand Ole Opry. And we got to see your performance at the Ryman, where you got the stand and O, and we were wondering if you'd come come headline the Opry Friday night.
Wow. How long did you have to think about that?
Oh, flip second, brother, I'll tell you.
Sure.
To be honest with you, man, all I remember is I played Don's gig. I ran home, called my mom on the payphone downstairs at James Robertson and told her. Of course, she got to crying because she had already gone back home, you know. And but to be honest, the next day I took every dime in my pocket and went to Trail West, which was my favorite Western store in Nashville, and bought a new Stetson, bought a new Western shirt, you know, new pair of Wranglers and some boots, and well, I'll tell you what, I was spit shine, son.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I ended up going to the Opry Friday night, man, and I'll tell you what, man, it was just. You talk about the pressure was on, son. I mean, it was just, woo. But then again, at, you know, 23 years old, that 24, that dream had come true. And of course, then my dad and mom's whole attitude toward me being in Nashville changed.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you would think.
So.
That's crazy.
Incredible 2 weeks of my life between meeting Gary, going at the Ryman and getting the stand and O, playing Primetime, and then hitting the Opry. I was walking on cloud nine, boys, I'll tell you. But the thing that freaked me out the most about all that, though, is Nashville was not a town of everybody patting you on the back going, oh, great job, dude. You know, somebody else is gigging at the same time you are. Even if you're playing the Opry, all my buddies were still down playing their gigs, so nobody got to hear it on the radio or anything, or you know, or even go to the show. I know Brother Ronnie, he came out for the primetime show and all that, but you know, so most guys downtown didn't even. I mean, they had heard I was playing the Opry, but nobody was like, "Hey man, great job," or you know. So I just kind of went. I was just back to playing Roberts right after that, you know, just going, man, what gives, you know? Nashville not really all that supportive, but come to find out, everybody was. It was just playing the Opry in Nashville was what you do. You were, you know, one of everybody's aspirations was to play the Opry. So, you know that definitely was a big old feather in my cowboy hat at that time.
Yeah,
sure.
That's kind of like the same thing in New York. You know, once you play Madison Square Garden, you've made it.
Yes.
Johnny, we talked about seeing Ricky Skaggs for the first time being your big guitar moment. Playing the Opry, was that your big artist moment? Is that when you became an artist? That moment right there?
Yes, and really, to be frankly honest with you, still at a spot in my life where I was still just so undecided on what I wanted to do. So obviously playing in Don's band, being Don's guitar player, that in itself was big time to me. And then having Gary come in and offer me the chance to play the Ryman and then Primetime and then getting to play the Opry, it instantly put me in that quote artist spot, if you will. And met my first manager, Mac Wilson. He went and really helped me at the Opry, take a monitor guy out there and of course, do a few other things for me to make my life easier as an artist to play that amazing show, of course. And of course, after that happened, he was saying, look, man, we need to do more with this, and I remember we met at the Renaissance Hotel, which was just around the corner from my apartment building. And he said, boy, you've been teaching me guitar and you're a great teacher, but he's like, man, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, I don't know what there is available in this guitar world, man. What do I do? How do I answer that question? I really don't know. And then he just started going down this whole list of things that were available to me. He's like, man, we need to get you involved with Hot Licks and True Fire and all these, teaching, making courses and videos and stuff like that. And we need to get you endorsed, and we need to get you, and of course, as he's saying, we need to get you endorsed. It's because I was a kid from Maine that had no money. So how do you start a career with nothing, So I've always relied on my endorsers all through my career because I'm still not a man that's made of money. And, but then again, I've been so blessed over the years, guys, in that department. So I've been just very, very blessed. But from my first manager, Mac Wilson, we just started that ball rolling, man. And next thing I know, I formed my first Johnny Hiland band. And next thing I know, we were at a buddy's studio. Chip Woody ran a fire and safety business in Nashville and had a studio up overhead. And he allowed me to record all of my first demos there. But we were rehearsing the band, the first Johnny Hiland band there. And next thing I know, I see Mac with his cell phone up. He was on the phone with Steve Vai.
Wow. And
I had no clue until after the song we were playing. He was holding it up for Steve to hear us play. And
so he's holding the phone up so Steve Vai can hear you play while you're recording demos.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
At one point, we were just simply having a band rehearsal. And I had written like 2 instrumentals, but I just wanted to see how the band would sound and, jam, have some fun, And kind of, Mac was saying, man, use it kind of as inspiration to see maybe what you might want to write for instrumentals. And next thing I know, man, I was back at the Ryman again playing with G3 and started writing my first album with Steve Vai's label, Favored Nations. So it was like bing, bam, boom, lickety split. And then I became the first unsigned level A artist endorser with Fender. So right after the Opry. So the Fender thing happened, and then the Vai thing happened. And then, of course, I met my lovely wife, Kimmy, and was married in 2005 after making the Vai album. And So it's just one continuous big ball of blessings, guys. That's all I can say. It's been a complete whirlwind for me.
Johnny, let me ask you a question about that first record. I understand that you made that record with Billy Sheehan, Pat Torpe, and Bill Holloman.
Yes.
Give us a story about what that process was like playing with those three gentlemen.
By the way, what a band! Holy
what a
crap.
band!
Well, man, you got to figure, man, the rhythm section for Mr. Big. I mean, how does it?
Yeah.
And then of course, guys, take it from this perspective: a country chicken picker being signed by Steve Vai, and then having Mr. Big's rhythm section back you up on your first record. I mean,
you would think you were a rock player.
You're bitching about how Nashville's changed and got more rock, and then I'm thinking back to my own career, going, gracious, man. I mean, but I will say this: being in the guitar world is obviously a lot different than being in the country music world. That's for sure. So to be honest, man, after playing G3 was the first time Billy had really jammed with me, and he told Steve that night, he said, man, I want to play on that boy's record, man. And so now Bill Holloman was obviously was with Danny Gatton. He played sax and keyboard for Danny. Mm-hmm. Mac had gotten Bill to play, well, pretty much Danny Gatton's drummer, Shannon Ford, and then of course Bill played on my first Hot Licks video. Mm-hmm. And of course, so I got to meet Bill with that, and I just, after knowing he played with Danny and seeing Austin City Limits and all that with Danny, I was like, man, he has got to play on my first record, man, you know. And I just love Bill Holloman to death, man. All the Danny's boys I've met through the years are just phenomenal guys, you know. But I think the biggest, freakiest moment about making that record, guys, was I was playing one of my first gigs with the Johnny Hiland Band was at Layla's, right next door to Robert's Western World. Mm-hmm. Played a NAMM party for Fender and didn't realize that Peter Collins, world famous producer, was sitting in there. Was talking to Mac, and the next thing I know, he was producing my first album. And, you know, and we got to fly out to Hollywood to Steve Vai's Mothership studio and just, you know, cranked out that first record, man. It was just absolutely amazing. But in what we were kind of chatting about before the show, guys, I have to give Steve Vai so much credit for his passion and love for, you know, great instrumental music. He was really the man who taught me how to write the proper instrumental. And he wanted me to be more commercial, obviously. He wanted me to, you know, he was really teaching me how to focus more on melody and come up with a melody that would stick in people's heads. And to be honest with you, I remember that songwriting process working at Pro Bono Studios in Nashville and just going over to Chips every single day before Don's gig, pounding out an instrumental and sending it to Steve. And then Mac would come back and say, well, Steve said this, you might want to try this and do that. But he was so, it was just amazing to have Steve's input and feedback on stuff I was writing early on, that he coached me along to help that first record be what it was. And then, of course, Peter Collins stepping in and even helping that much further. So I just completely blessed, man, to do that first record in Hollywood and do it at the Mothership, man. You know, it was just awesome. And so I even got to play through some of, you know, Steve's amps during that album. And so it was just an amazing, amazing process. And the great Neil Citron engineered that record, guys, and he was the guy that did all the guitars for That Thing You Do.
Oh, wow. I love that movie. Love that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Johnny, our buddy Mitch Heyman in the chat says, and I'm sorry, this is not really jiving what you're talking about at the moment, but I want to try to do this on the fly. He says, can you ask Johnny, if Hollywood were to make a movie of your life, what actor would you want to play you?
That's a good question, my friend. They'd have to find one ugly booger, I'll tell you that. I don't know.
I'll do it.
Who was you saying, Dave?
I said, I'll do it. I'll play you.
There you go, man. You can do it.
I would need your hands, though.
Oh, man. Brother, I'll tell you what. I don't know. That's a real good question. I might have to shout at Kimmy and ask her. I don't know.
Hey Johnny, you were mentioning how maybe how different at the time when Steve I came to you and got this chicken picker to come and do this, and obviously you are very. I mean, you're one of the best chicken pickers in the world, man. I mean,
on the planet, absolutely.
It's just it's phenomenal. And for those of us that view chicken picking or hybrid picking as a technique that we utilize in our playing, whether it's in country or rock or swing or whatever it is. I've heard you describe chicken picking as not a technique but a lifestyle. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think you have to go back, man, all the way to the Ventures, to what James Burton did with Elvis, to what he did on Ricky Nelson records. Emmylou Harris's Hot Band, with Albert and I mean, goodness gracious, man. I mean, and you got to go back further than that, even to Les Paul, to Chet, Merle Travis, Joe Maphis. I mean, there's the love of chicken picking is, when I say it's more of a lifestyle, I mean, to me, man, you got to be able to, slap on a cowboy hat and a pair of, shit-kicking cowboy boots every day and live that honky-tonk lifestyle to know really what chicken picking is. You can't make the chicken squat, man, on the T-style guitar, man, without knowing how the chicken really does do that. So, I've had that experience, I must say. I didn't grow up on a farm, but I certainly had the experience. Well,
I mean, you certainly, you have it to a perfection. So you're embracing that technique at a different level than mere mortals, I'd say. You've mentioned a couple of guys already. One of those guys is James Burton. What is James Burton meant to your playing, Johnny?
Oh man, I mean, he's obviously one of my biggest heroes, and that's why when people say, Johnny, who are your heroes? I'm like, well, you got a couple hours?
Yeah.
Because everybody that had a part in creating the chicken picking sound, and James literally being one of the first really to create that, to play Italian, really get that sound. Before then, there was Les Paul and Merle Travis and Chet, guys like that. But I mean, it was James Burton that really kind of set the standard pretty high, if you will, on how to create that chicken picking sound. And then, of course, Albert Lee, the same way, man. I mean, between James and Albert, those were two of the first guys to really make it happen and really make people take notice of that actual style.
The other person I've heard James you mention. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's a big man.
The other person I've heard you mention a few times tonight is Danny Gatton.
Yes.
I mean, is Danny your? I mean, if you had a guy, would he be your guy?
Yeah, Ricky Skaggs would be my all-around favorite artist, singer, guitar, musician, multi-instrumentalist. But when it comes to just guitar playing, yes, Danny Gatton is definitely my biggest guitar hero. And the reason I say that, guys, is he played guitar very aggressively and played it with no holes barred, man. I mean, you'd think he was going to train wreck, man, and he'd just pull out of it, and you just throw your hands in the air, and just how did he do that, And a man that could play any genre of music that you could think of and mix them all in the same song if he wanted to. So, yeah, Danny, man, was really my biggest hero in the fact that he played a number of different styles, all on a Tele-style guitar, and just play it with that no-fear mentality,
Redneck jazz.
Redneck jazz, baby, all the way.
Yeah. There are a couple questions in the chat. Ed Dana asked Johnny, was Jerry Reed an influence?
Absolutely, son.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Jerry Reed. He's amazing.
Amazing.
He was such a good guitar player. They made him an actor. He couldn't act.
Man.
Anyway.
A lot of people don't know, man. He wrote a lot of songs for Chet.
Yeah.
He was a guitar player's guitar player, man. Yeah, Jerry Reed, I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves for being such an icon in country music, not only for his vocals and his "If You're Hot, You're Hot" and all those songs that we love so much, Amos Moses and all that, but man, he wrote some of the best guitar parts you've ever heard in your life, and full guitar songs. Obviously, Jerry's Breakdown.
Yeah, oh, fantastic.
Johnny, do you know if there's any truth that Chet Atkins named the claw after Jerry's right hand?
Yeah, buddy, I'll tell you, there's a funny story that goes with that. Tom Bresh has become one of my dearest friends on the planet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Everyone knows he's Merle Travis's son.
Yeah, wow.
And when I started having hand troubles a few years ago, I was not able to hold my signature V-pick anymore. My index finger, something happened to it. And we used to go with my newest manager, John Herring, who's now, since we've parted ways, but that's another story. It's, but anyway, we used to go eat with all our buds in Nashville once a month. We called it the gluttony sessions. Fresh to come out, man. And I was sitting there at the table and I was just, oh man, I was just devastated because I'm like, man, I'm having hand troubles. It's affecting the shows. It's affected me. I don't know if I'm going to be able to carry on or continue to play. And Bresh hauled me outside and he said, son, why don't you throw a thumb pick on? And I said, gosh, Bresh, I don't know, man. I mean, that would take me a long time to develop that style in the proper way.
Wow.
He said, all you got to do is slip it on and try it. That's all you got to do. And so, to be frankly honest with you guys, I got home and I found that the index finger was the finger that was really giving me the issue.
Oh, wow.
So, honestly, what happened is I put the thumb pick on and I started jamming and playing and stuff. And I called Bresh up one afternoon and I said, hey, Bresh, I'm finding that I'm not using, and Noki Edwards too, God love him. I can't fail to mention Noki. He had already given me a few thumb picks, and so did Bresh. So Noki had a lot to do with that too. Noki's like, son, if you throw a thumb pick on, we all in trouble. Get faster and you're going to get clean. And my goodness, how you do that. But he said, if you ever throw one of these on, son, we're all in trouble. And of course, I laughed and I said, nope, that'll never happen. But between him and Mr. Bresh, man, I went home and put a thumb pick on and I tried and tried and tried. And I called Bresh one afternoon and I said, hey, Bresh, I said, it's my index finger that's giving me a hard time. And I said, man, I find like I'm kind of tucking it under, and using the two fingers that I used to hybrid pick when I held the flat pick, my middle and ring finger. And I said, man, I kind of look like, it's weird looking, with the index finger tucked in. And I said, man, is it wrong? And he just started laughing. And he said, well, son, hell, if it worked for Jerry Reed, it ought to work for you.
Yeah.
And then that Chet Atkins told, he said, man, Reed had arthritis in his index finger. And he said, Chet was actually the one that said, Jerry, you look like you're playing with a claw, son. You tucked that index finger under. I didn't even know that. I had no clue.
That's
Wow.
That's wild.
That is.
I started laughing. Son, if it worked for Reed, it ought to work for you.
Are you still using a thumb pick today, John?
He's got it on his thumb.
Yep. Sure. Man, I got a thumb pick on pretty much all the time. I'm using Fred Kelly slick picks.
Okay.
And in the shot here. There it is. I got a Kelly Delrin slick pick on right now, and I wear that thing all the time, man.
Wow. That's great.
Scotty Anderson can wear a thumb pick out too.
Oh, son, he's just a beast, man. He is.
He is next worldly. Yeah.
He is, man. He and Doyle Dykes, man, are like two guitar players that I don't know who the hell ever touch them. I mean, they're just both off in another dimension, man, with their playing. Mm-hmm. So,
Johnny, what is it? Chicken picking is just a happy style of guitar. I mean, what is it in your opinion? What is it about that style of playing that attracts so many players to give it a try?
I honestly think you just said it, brother. I think it's just such a happy style. And granted, it's like jazz in the respect that it is a discipline. You have to learn how to play clean and you have to really devote your time into practicing all the time because it's its own art form. And really, when you grow up on Merle Travis and Chet and then Burton and Albert Lee and guys like that, man, you know if you're going to do that style, you better do it right. And to be honest with you, I think really, as difficult as it is, it's still happy and fun. So even when you're practicing it, you're still having fun. You're still in the woodshed slaving and grinding. It's still a very fun thing to hear as much as it is to play.
Mm-hmm. I got two more questions about that, and then we'll move on. Do you use a compressor when you're doing that?
Yep.
And then about your nails, do you grow them or do you use acrylics?
No, I use acrylics, man, and I'd show them to you right now. But with COVID going on, man, they looking bad, son. I'm not gonna give all the bird or nothing, but my wife, God love her heart, thanks to my dear friend Kenny Thurman, who lives up here in Danville, Virginia. He's the sound man for Mr. Phil Vassar out on the road. He and his sweet wife Connie bought me a nail care kit, believe it or not, that had acrylic stuff in it and whatever. Had no idea, man, that the nail salons were going to be shut completely down for the number of months they have been.
Mm.
So my sweet darling Kimmy girl, right before Facebook, one Sunday, I do Facebook Live every Sunday, man, on Johnny Hiland Official, and but she was repairing my nail because it had completely come off. And I thought, oh my Lord, I'm not going to be able to play it off. But I've relied on acrylic nails for a long time, man. Yeah.
Dry 480 in the chat says, Johnny, what do you think of John Five's chicken picking?
Man, I think John Five is, he's a beast, man. But I think John Five, man, is obviously very well known for, what he did with Manson and, he's obviously a shredder, man. He's incredible. But I've only heard a little bit of his chicken picking stuff. And I know back in the day, I think he played with Katie Lang or someone like that.
Did, yeah.
He's a beast of a player, ain't no doubt about it. And I'm just glad someone in the rock world is still loving Telecasters.
Oh yeah, his love of the Telecaster is pretty incredible. I mean, and they're all funky looking. They all have something going on with them.
Oh yes, they do.
Well, Johnny, that's a nice segue into today's rock world. Seems to be at ground zero for today's rock movement seems to be in Nashville.
I think you're right.
How has that evolved? How has that scene evolved since you first moved in the mid '90s?
Well, I'll say this, man. I think the change had already semi-started when Garth Brooks came out, swinging on Tarzan ropes and breaking Takamines and stuff like that. Granted, you got to hand it to Garth, man, for his entertainment. He's incredible, and I'm not on here dogging anybody.
Sure.
And to be frankly honest, man, I love Garth Brooks. I think he's amazing, but Chris Ledoux and Garth kind of started this new rocking country show, if you will, and then a lot of other artists kind of stepped their shows up to be that level, and I think that really brought forth some more distorted guitars, less steel, less, chicken picking, obviously. But I think in Nashville, Tennessee itself, when I first moved there in '96, man, it was the best. I'll always remember Nashville for what it was like in the late '90s. It was incredible. Everybody chicken picked. Everybody had tellies. Everybody, would lug around an old Fender Bassman or a Music Man or something with a 112 or 410s with a little tiny pedal board, and we'd go gig to gig to gig. And it was just, every guitar player, man, James Mitchell, Scott Coney, Rod Riley, Kenny Vaughn, Red Vocart. I mean, Pete Mitchell, who played with Ernest Tubb and the Texas Troubadours. I mean, they were all there. And it was like a feeding frenzy, man. We all stole licks from each other. We were all just chicken picking freaks, But I remember in the late '90s too, there was a big jazz swing that happened. Then let's face it, guys, Brent Mason is one of the best jazz players I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, he's pretty fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But the jazz movement kind of segued into chicken picking at that time. And there's really a funny story about that. I had asked Red a lot. I knew a lot of my buddies were going to Red's house, playing his old tallies and getting lessons on jazz. And I always asked Red to let me go get a lesson with him. He wouldn't answer me or wouldn't. And I thought he was mad at me, man. But Red kind of told me, he's like, son, do what you do, man. Just chicken pick your butt off and be Johnny Hiland. Do your thing, man. He's like, jazz, you're going to find more about jazz on your own when you're ready for it. But he's like, dude, don't worry about being yourself. Do you, man. And the funny thing was, man, a few years back, Red and I got a chance to play together at the Dallas Guitar Show with Pete Anderson on stage. And, of course, Red swung one, and I started, my dogs were going crazy. You guys might have to meet Buddy and Ella. You never know. But soon, you know, I started throwing a few Western swing chops and jazz licks in there, and Red just kind of got in my ear, and he was like, I told you so, you know. So Red really was the guy that was like, look, dude, you just keep chicken picking and doing your thing, and let these other guys do their own thing, you know. But so the jazz thing kind of got segued into chicken picking for a while in the mid-'90s or late '90s. But then, yeah, early 2000s, man, started the shift is what I call it, the new wave. And it was a gradual thing. It took probably till, I'd say from 2010 to present day, we really saw the big change where everybody was going from wearing cowboy hats and boots and Western shirts to, you know, buckled jeans, Affliction T-shirts, and a winter beanie with a Les Paul and a half stack, you know. Or,
Yep.
you know. So, but then again, guys, I left Nashville because I knew it was time for me, because chicken picking does seem like a dying art form in Nashville, but yet it's still kind of an underground thing too. But yet I knew after doing the most recent sessions I'd done in Nashville outside of my own records that it was time. It was time for me to get out of there. And if that's what Nashville had turned into, I just had to literally face it and realize that the change was inevitable and it was coming, and I just either had to accept it or not. I will always be a traditional country lover and player, chicken picker. But I just got to the point where, country music just wasn't real country music anymore to me. So, but that's my own opinion, and as Chet would say, soon it ought to be yours.
So where is it happening, Johnny? Is the Red Dirt movement out of Texas? Is that where it's happening? I mean, where is country music still happening?
You know, man, I definitely think it's still down in Texas without a doubt. And I think a lot of your traditional country artists are kind of doing more of the Americana thing now. You know, you got guys like Tyler Childers and guys like that. You know, I mean, there's just still so many great country artists out there. And I'm really proud to see too in the last year or so that, Sammy Kershaw and Chestnut and all those guys are still out on the road doing it, man. And of course, as you all know, we lost the great Joe Diffie.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Love him. He was one of the best we ever had. And but then again, I mean, Ricky Skaggs is still touring, playing bluegrass, and Vince Gill's out with the Eagles now. But yet, Vince played with the Time Jumpers, man, doing Western swing. How awesome is that?
Amazing. I mean, and Vince wasn't even the best guitar player in that band.
Oh man, he's Grease, brother. Yeah.
No, when Vince Gill is not the best guitar player in the band is awesome.
Oh. They really are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm not trying to say that country music is completely dead. I don't believe that at all. I think it's just there was a massive transition from the entire 22 years that I lived in Nashville. I saw that transition, and just, every other couple of years there was a new shift. And it literally got to the point for me where I was like, man, I just don't feel, this doesn't feel like home anymore. Now, that is not just because country music changed. It's because the city grew exponentially. The traffic got worse. The crime rate went up. I mean, everything about Nashville changed. So it's not that I'm sitting here putting the blame on anybody. But man, I'm a small town boy. I grew up in Baileyville, Maine, and of course my sweet wife Kimmy was raised up here in Virginia, and it was just time, man. The city just got too big for us.
Fruitcake Tony asked where Johnny is now. He is in Virginia, Tony. Guitar Man 45 says, I still have a Music Man HD 132x12 bought in 78. It's a great amp.
Yes.
Hugh Caldwell, Hugh Caldwell says, Johnny's Bluegrass instructional DVD expanded my guitar knowledge massively.
Oh, thank you, brother.
And the great Larry Mitchell is here. Hello,
Larry Mitchell. Yep.
Oh,
Another great guitar player. Wonderful player.
Well, boys, there's a funny story about that Bluegrass video. Most folks don't know, but I did both my Hot Licks videos at the same time.
Oh, really?
And after, by the time I got to that Bluegrass one, man, playing acoustic for that whole video, man, my fingers were tore out of the frame, dude. They were like meatloaf. So I was having a pretty rough time making that video, but I really appreciate that. And, man, I'm glad to hear that video still helping folks out, man, because that's what it is to be a teacher, man. You want to help everybody you can.
Absolutely.
Bull Hunter 45 says Johnny does lessons on Skype, writing for details at Hiland 007 at Comcast.net. I can tell you it's totally worth the experience. So,
brother, I appreciate that, man. I thank you for bringing that up. And yes, I do still love to teach guys. And even with COVID going on, I'm teaching via Skype and FaceTime all the time. So I'd love to teach you.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about chicken picking Johnny, and we talked about some great players, Albert Lee and yourself and Danny Gatton. And, but what's unique, or to my ear, there's always some unique personal character to that play. And you hear a lot of the player, in that, where the technique may be similar, the rolls may be similar, the double stops, triple stops, they all might be similar, but there's a Johnny Hiland character to your playing, and there's a Brent Mason playing to his character, and it really does lend itself to some individual stylistic type aspects, doesn't it?
Well, and I think that really, I think that's because we had so many icons to look up to. From Don Rich with Buck Owens, Roy Nichols, I already named, a bunch of, people, but all the way back to Cliff Gallup to even Les himself and Chet and Gary Reed. And there's so many, we had so many great, even Roy Clark guys.
The hee-haw guys.
Oh my God, Roy Clark. Forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it.
And so I got to say, man, I think what really inspired me with it all, guys, was watching Hee Haw as a kid. I got to hand it to Roy Clark, man. You talk about a man that put personality in his playing and taught us all how to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So I got to say, man, Roy, I think we all have to thank Roy for that, man. I think it was, the fun that he showed and the humility and the humor, the just sheer country humor.
There was another show on TNN in the 90s. I want to say it was the 90s. I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry, but it was like a hee-haw type thing, and there'd be as the commercials would come in and out, the band would play, and the guitar player, tall guy, curly black hair with a beard, and he'd play a telly. He's always playing a telly, and man, that was one of the first times that I really got into telly playing and listening to the Telecaster, because, boy, that guitar, you can put that guitar anywhere in any mix, in any song, on any day, and it would fit perfectly.
Man, I'm sure you're referring to Fred Newell on Nashville Now.
That's it, Nashville Now. That's it. Yep.
Fred really became one of my heroes early on, too, from Nashville Now. And my parents took me to Nashville in 1988, and I got to see Fred on the show. And, of course, after moving to Nashville, Fred and I became good friends, man, and I still adore him to this day, man. Fantastic guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to thank him for that very thing, man. So I think you guys are spot on with that.
Man, that's That and the song "Long Cool Woman." You hear the telly in the beginning of the song "Long Cool Woman." You know it's a telly, and
Oh, yeah.
that is the epitome of a great telly sound right there.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You can always recognize those good ones, man. You know. Now, I will share one funny story with you guys. When I was over at Joe's shop one day, Joe said, "Here, man, check this telly out." And he handed it to me over the counter. It was this white telly, you know. You could tell it was old, and it was actually Jerry Reed's telly.
Oh wow!
And I got to play it, man, and I was just so doggone tickled, man, to get my hands on that thing. Just incredible, and I thought, man, that was the telly that he used on the what was it? What was it? I can't remember what he played on, but he played something with BB King, or was it BB or was it Buddy Guy? I can't remember which one. I think it was BB. I'm not sure though. But I remember Jerry playing on a TV show, man, and had that telly, and I was like, man, this is the one I'm holding in my hands. I couldn't even believe it. So yeah, pretty cool.
Larry Mitchell says, Johnny, you, Rory Hoffman, and Tommy Emmanuel should do some picking and grinning hee-haw videos.
Oh, man, dude, that would be so fun. I love Tommy and Rory, man. They're both great guys and just, monster pickers, man. Monster pickers.
Johnny, you've also been involved in in quite a few sessions.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about some of your most memorable studio experiences for just tell us what it was like working in some of those big Nashville studios with big producers and big budgets and all those things that many of us missed out on. Tell us about some of those big experiences.
Well, man, I think my favorite session I ever did, guys, was going to Ricky Skaggs' studio and playing on Brand New Strings. That obviously that album won a Grammy. I played on the Tiny Train, but that's when
a big record. Yeah.
First time Ricky and I got to hang, and he actually engineered the session, and I got to play on it. But as I was gearing up for the session and getting my tone and setting things, Ricky was setting microphones and stuff on my twin and whatever. He, man, I was pulling off all of the old, Heart Broke and Highway 40 blues solos and Walking in Jerusalem, which is on my gospel album now.
Yeah.
But I played Ricky's exact intro to that, and he'd go, "Yeah, that's it, boy. Yeah, you done that one right, son. That's it. Yeah, that's it." I think he was just tickled that I remembered and learned all the solos off his records, just such a hero to me, and just having that experience with him was just something I'll never forget. But some other sessions, man, I've played on so many records over the years, man. I played on Toby Keith's Honky Tonk You album. I played on a song called She Left Me. And being in there with James Stroud and all the guys that played on Toby's records, when you're in the studio with like Shannon Forrest and Glenn Worf and Biff Watson and, and then, of course, I remember the sessions I did with Bruce Boughton, who played pedal steel for Ricky Skaggs. Just all the cats I've got to know through the years playing sessions in Nashville. And I think what really we're missing in Nashville now, guys, is the camaraderie of the musicians, in that, sure, nowadays anyone can cut a track from their home studio and fly it in via email. But the thing we had back then, man, was, going into a big studio, meeting all our fellow pickers and, of course, icons, especially the guys like me, when you get in there with Shannon Forrest on drums and Glenn Worf on bass and Biff Watson on rhythm guitar and Bruce Boughton or, Paul Franklin on pedal steel and Larry Franklin on fiddle. And, it's just, you sit there, Gordon Mote on piano, it was just, you basically have to, it's almost like an out-of-body experience, because you're sitting there going, man, am I really on this record? Hearing all this music coming through your headphones, and you're just freaking out going, man, this is incredible that I'm even able to be in the room, let alone play on the record. But yeah, there was a lot of worry with that too, because when you got a big producer like James Stroud or, Kyle Lanning or Scott Hendricks, you're wanting your tone to be absolutely spot on perfect. You don't want any buzz or any noise, or, you wanted to have the right guitars on the session. You wanted to make sure everything was spot on, so you'd get called back, to play another session. But I do have to give a lot of credit, man. My studio start came from a man named Bill Vorndick in Nashville, who is the most recorded acoustic producer in Nashville.
Bob Dylan, right?
Yeah, Bob Dylan, Ralph Stanley, Bela Fleck, all the Newgrass Revival stuff. I think we did a lot of that. But
Alison Krauss, yeah.
We did a spattering of records at one time where we did a bluegrass tribute to Fish and to the Dave Matthews Band.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's eclectic.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then like 2 days later, we did all of Janie Fricke and Len Anderson's greatest hits, bluegrass style. And of course, it was a chance for me to bring the Martin out and play some grass again, man. It was a lot of fun. To be honest with you, man. Now here's a funny story, guys. A studio experience that I'll share with y'all. It was really a trip for me. Len Anderson came in to do her greatest hits bluegrass style, and I played guitar on it. And I walked up to her at the end of the session, and we were taking a break in between songs or whatever. I walked out and I said, "Hey, Lynn," I said, "How are you today?" She said, "Boy, you're playing some great guitar in there." I said, "Thank you so much, and really appreciate being on the session with you. It's such an honor." And I said, "Do you remember me, Lynn?" And she looked at me and she said, "No, sugar, I don't think I do." And I said, "Well, I opened for you when I was 9 years old at the Fredericton exhibition."
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And she kind of reared back. "Dog bite, I do remember you." She said, "You were that little fellow with that straw cowboy hat with the partridge feathers on the front, ripped up that banjo and guitar. I remember you." And she did. And so here I was, open for her when I was 9 years old, and then got to play on her record at like 25, 26 years old after that,
How incredible is that?
That was
incredible.
And to be able to walk up to her and go, "Man, do you remember me?"
That's awesome.
So that was incredible. But, another memorable record was playing on Noki Edwards' 80 and Picking with My Friends. Brent played on that, Bucky Barrett, so many great guitar players. But to have the great Noki Edwards ask you to play on one of his records is just a dream too.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's great.
Gosh, the list is so long. I played on Randy Travis's record.
Yeah.
Got to do some stuff with Randy, and of course after that experience, too, guys, Lynn asked me to go play Fanfare with her, so that was a lot of fun.
Oh, how cool!
And Fred Newell was in her band, so Fred and I got to be on stage together with that, so that was fun.
Just go ahead, John.
Johnny, you made a record. You made one of your records. We talked about your first record that you made with Steve Vai, but you made a record with Mike Varney from Shrapnel Records, and you were probably the first of your style to be recorded onto Shrapnel. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
That was absolutely mind blowing, guys. There was a record that I did in between there called Loud and Proud.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did in between there called The Blues Connection. And to be honest with you guys, I was at a very weird stage of my life during that time when Mike Varney first called me. I married my sweet love Kimmy girl in 2005 on April 2nd. Actually, we just celebrated 15 years.
Congratulations!
Thank you, brother.
Congratulations.
He is the biggest blessing God's ever brought my life, boys. I'll tell you that. But anyway, we got married in 2005. Well, a month before our wedding, her grandma passed away, who helped raise her. And a month after our wedding, my dad died in a boating accident with my Uncle Jimmy. And that crippled me in itself because I was supposed to be home on the fishing trip, but I had a chance to open for EJ, Eric Johnson, at the Tulsa Blues Fest. And he and Uncle Jimmy died. There was a massive storm come up, and they were in a Grand Laker canoe and hit a boom log, punctured it, and, Dad died of hypothermia.
Oh, my God.
Sorry to hear that.
Yes.
My dad was 57 when he passed, and then my mom died a year and a half later in 2007 at age 50. So I was at the stage, guys, where I was really angry and upset still over the loss of my folks. And, you know, God love Kimmy. I don't know how she put up with me during that time, guys. I was just really depressed, really, you know, kind of felt like I had, you know, it was like marrying Kimmy. I was so complete in my heart. And then after losing my dad and mom, it was like just squashed it, just crushed it, you know.
Well, yeah.
And so to try to rebuild that, man, Kimmy had her hands full with me, guys. I'll tell you, but Mike Varney happened to call after the Blues Connection record, and God love Ronnie for doing that record with me and helping me through a real hard time after losing my mom. But when Mike called me, I was just at that transition phase where touring was slowing down some. You know, it was like there was a real lull period there for a while after losing my folks. And but when Mike called, it was, guys, this was another massive blur, whirlwind in my life, because Mike called me in December of 2010, and he said, "Son," he said, I really love your pick, and I want to sign you to Shrapnel Records." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I'm like, "This is, you know, hadn't had a record deal since Steve." And I said, "Look, man, I still, even though Favored Nations went digital, I still feel like I'm still a part of Favored Nations." And of course, got Steve's blessing to move over with Mike. And but guys, we started talking in December of 2010, recorded the record right directly after the Winter NAMM show in January, and then put the record out that summer. So, but literally within 1 month's time of starting to talk to Mike, I was in Cotati, California, cutting that record.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was just mind-blowing, man. I was writing like a mad dog for that. And but the cool thing is, I had a few songs that I had already written and had been, you know, test marketing in my live shows, finding out how the audience would respond to them and stuff. And so, but yeah, I wrote like a madman that next month, and because Mike was like, "Man, here's your time frame," and I finally called him right before NAMM, and I said, "Brother, I've got the album together." And I'll be honest, guys, that album was mind blowing in that, you know, I had Billy Sheehan and Pat Torpey and Bill Holloman on the Vi album, but then with Mike's album, he's like, "Who would you want for a rhythm section, man?" I'm like, "Dude, I love Stu Ham," and I would, you know, honestly. Stu, right?
Right.
I was like, "I love Stu, man." And I said, I met him around the same time I first met Billy Sheehan. And I said, "Man, I'd love to play on a record with Stu." And so I pretty much said, I love Steve's drummer, Jeremy Colson, too. But I said, Mike, let's ask Stu who he'd like to have. And of course, he had no issue with Jeremy at all. Excuse me. I think Jeremy's one of the best drummers in the world, obviously.
Right.
And, with Mr. Vi and obviously Billy Idol too. But going in the studio with those guys, man, I went out to California and got to record in Prairie Sun, where Yngwie recorded the Steeler album, the very same studio.
Mm-hmm.
So just mind blowing. I was like, man. So the same place that I hung my hat at night, guys, to sleep. I mean, Vinnie Moore, all the Shrapnel guys, man. You know, Yngwie's first Steeler record was cut there. So Mike was even making the joke, man, just think of who all the guys slept in that same bed you're going to be in there. I'm like, oh, man. But it was just kind of like being at the mothership with Steve, too. You know, it was just incredible. And, of course, my buddy Jason Macedo, I give him a lot of thanks, man. He was the guy that got in touch with Mike and made all that happen for me. And Jason and I did Sound Guitar magazine at that time. And so a lot of great memories during that album. And of course, if you guys have seen the back of All Fired Up, there are chickens standing with me on the back jacket of that album. So hence the chicken picking thing. That's why I say you got to live it, man. You got to be around. You just got to have it.
So many standout performances on that record. You know, from the title track to Forever Love and Minor Adjustment. There's so many good songs on that record.
Well, I really
and the fact that it came together. I'm sorry, you broke up on that last part.
I'll share this story with you guys. We had 20 days to cut that album, and we actually, with 2 days off, mind you, got the whole album done, mixed, and mastered with 2 days of rehearsal and 2 days off in 6 days.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, that whole album was cut just bing, 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 bam, boom. I mean, it just happened, lickety split. And to be honest with you guys, we cut the record so fast that Mike actually took me out to a movie. So I got to go sit after the session was over and go enjoy a dinner and a movie with Mr. Mike Varney. And believe it or not, we both fell asleep.
So was that record recorded live?
Well, pretty much. I'll say, well, yes and no, because the rhythm section was definitely. My guitar parts, I did the rhythm stuff the very next day, and then I, of course, did all my leads after that. So yeah, the rhythm section was cut live, and of course, I played rhythm guitars and played melody in the, but we didn't keep any of those guitar parts at that time. No.
Right. Scratch tracks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
We mentioned the Loud and Proud record very briefly. That another powerhouse record. I mean, the track "Groovin" is just one of my favorite tracks you've ever recorded, and then your "Sweet Kimmy Girl" track, is from that record. Is that another example of things coming together quickly for you?
That album, guys, for me was pretty pivotal in the respect that I had been in the studio in 2004 with Peter Collins producing and Steve executive producing, and I felt like they just really took all of my gumption out of my songs to make them more commercial sounding. And not to discredit Steve or Peter at all in that first record, I just felt like, man, my live shows were just, took on a completely different life of their own compared to what my first album delivered as far as how I felt recording it and not feeling like I could let loose as a guitar player because it was more melody driven.
Mm-hmm.
So Loud and Proud was one of those albums where I took my live band in the studio, one of the versions of the Johnny Hiland band, which there's been several now. But we went in the studio as a band and had played a lot of the songs live and went in as a band and cut that album at, goodness gracious, I can't remember the name of the studio now. Platinum Labs in Nashville in Berry Hill. And Jim Lightman engineered and helped me, engineered that record and helped me mix it and all that. And just a phenomenal producer and engineer. And, Jim actually worked on Leanne Womack's If You Dance.
Wow.
And done some incredible things. But I was so honored to get to work with Jim. But then again, he really was the engineer in Nashville that really said, dude, Katie bar the door. You got this big old studio. Come in here and just let your hair down and go. And I was like, what hair? But really, man, it was a chance for me and the boys to go in there and make a record of songs that we were doing live. And I was writing so much at the time, but really trying to keep focused on the melody, but not taking anything away from the solos and how they fit in the songs and all that. So I think Loud and Proud really was my first, what I called a Johnny Hiland produced album versus having a producer. And when it got to All Fired Up and Mike Varney, guys, he put so much trust in me. I would literally finish a guitar track in the studio with Mike, and I'd look over and I'd be like, hey, Mike, how was that track, bud? Was it good?
Sounds like me.
But, to have that much faith in an artist, I could not have asked for a better experience than Mike Varney working in the studio with him, man. Mike is such a guitar lover, man, that if you played a solo, he'd be like, more notes. Give it to me, man. Pound me right in the chest with it. you know, and you just fly. Yeah, that boy, that's what I want, you know. So I love the fact that Mike was a guitar fan first, then a producer.
Mm-hmm.
So All Fired Up really became my favorite album after Loud and Proud because Mike really understood me. And I think, you know, obviously being the first chicken pecker to ever sign to Shrapnel Records, I think the only one, Mike actually went in print saying Johnny Hiland was the most organized and prepared guitar player I've ever worked with.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
so
incredible.
I was so tickled, man, that he allowed me the freedom that I had in that Shrapnel album, All Fired Up. It was so fun to make.
That's great.
Well, it's a great product. I mean, it's such a really nice collection of songs, and you know, Standing Strong. I just love this record so much from you, Johnny. When I first heard this semi-autobiographical song, "Freeborn Man," from you, and the tone of the guitar on that song, and I mean, vocally, it's a great song vocally. I mean, there's, it was a big moment. You know, big moment for me into how all of these things can come together. I just love the sound of this record so much.
Well, thank you, man. I know I had a lot of people kind of gripe at me that record was a little timid in the bass department. But I'll be honest, man. Now that album, Here Again, All Fired Up come out in 2011. And it was a long while since I had put a record out. And had met a dear friend of mine from SAE, the recording engineering school in Nashville. His name's Dallin Beck. And Dallin started working for Impact Studio in Nashville. And I was talking to him one day and I said, brother, I'm about ready to do a new record. And I was doing some sessions for him in Nashville at Impact. And I just said, Dallin, I'd love to record a record here, brother. This studio just feels like home. It's real comfortable. And next thing I know, man, I was in with the boys in my band again, and we were doing Standing Strong. And to actually create a follow-up album to All Fired Up was very hard to do. You know, as an artist, you want your newest record to be better than your last one.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, how am I ever going to top All Fired Up? You know, but thank goodness enough years had gone by and people were hungry for some new Johnny music. But I sang more on Standing Strong, that album, and tried to make it a little bit more of a vocal-driven album. But, you know, Freeborn Man, I'd heard the Outlaws do that. I had heard, you know, of course, the great Jimmy Martin did that song. And it was just such a good standard. You know, all us chicken pickers in Nashville have had our own version for years. So I just wanted to cut that song.
Yeah, it aligns with your story so well. It's just the perfect song to be on a Johnny Hiland record. And, you know, your version of "Call Me the Breeze," that's on that record. Just another great interpretation of the original work. And there's a lot of soul on that record.
Thank you for that, bud. I started getting the engineering bug myself during that album, and of course was blessed many years ago to gain Camp Highland Studio in Nashville in my basement. And I've always been very timid singing in the studio. So I told Dallin when we were making Standing Strong, I said, dude, I want to do all my vocals at home. And so he would come over, and I got to be honest, guys, I was so blessed via endorsements that my studio was literally too big and had too many knobs and too many buttons for a blind guy to enjoy to engineer on. Mm-hmm. He would come over and help me get set up, and he'd go, all right, boy. He'd say, look, you don't know how to punch in, so I want you to sing each song 6 times through. Now, that was a lot of work. You know.
Oh yeah, a lot of work on the vocal cords. Hey, that's a great segue. Do you feel like taking us down to your studio and showing that off a little bit?
Well, actually, I was just going to get to that, Dave. I actually, after making Standing Strong, then of course moved on to make the gospel album and of course the Christmas album last year, and worked with my dear friend and massive keyboardist and background vocalist Blake Padilla. But Blake has been a longtime friend, but I met him out at Katati during the making of All Fired Up. And then actually was the guy that talked Blake into moving to Nashville. So what a great, what a great brother to have, that I met out there and helped push him to get to Nashville. having no idea at the time that he was a massively great engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So what a blessing that was. But now, moving to Chatham, Virginia, guys, I thought to myself, as Kimmy and I made the move, I'm like, my goodness, what am I going to do with my career up in a small town, the small town of Chatham, Virginia? And lo and behold to me, thanks to the good Lord and another massive blessing, a month after I moved up here, I got a call from my dear friend Kenny Thurman, who I knew from Nashville, known Kenny over 20 years. And he called me and said, hey, man, a buddy of mine saw you up doing a jam with Ricky Van Shelton the other night and said that you moved up not even 12 miles from me.
Oh, wow.
What are you talking about, man? He said, I live in Danville, 12 miles down the road from you. I said, get out of here. And I started sharing with him what my goal was for having another studio, but here in Chatham. And, man, when I shared with Brother Kenny what I needed, I said, look, man, my studio in Nashville was great, but this blind boy could not see to run it. So Kenny knew exactly what I needed. And now I would definitely love to share that with you guys.
Awesome.
He really, really enabled me. After 45 years of my life, guys, I can now engineer and record on my own. So, Brother KT, I thank you and love you for that, brother. I'm gonna give you a shout out right now while I'm on camera with these boys.
Awesome.
So now I'm going to take you guys down to the new Camp Hiland studio.
Camp Hiland.
Love it.
I love it.
Why am I calling it Camp Hiland, guys? Because eventually I want to take new handicapped kids that I meet and bring them down here and record with them and get them to get turned on to Kiesel guitars and Boss, and because I'm running all Roland V drums and Roland keyboards, and so I'm going to turn a.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool, Johnny.
Yeah, so I want to help handicapped kids as I grow older too, and I think it's really important to share the love.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, guys, I'm just turning on some lights as I walk through my house sideways. And I need to turn some lights on in the studio. So it may get dark on y'all for a second, but just bear with me.
Sure. Well, while you're going down there, I just want to thank everyone in the chat for joining us tonight. We have 50 people in the chat at the moment. Everyone seems to love you, Johnny. It warms my heart because everyone is, right there with you.
Well, I thank you all so much. And I got to say, man, you guys, I just thank you guys for doing this show in general. I'm a big fan of the show, and I was so tickled when y'all asked me to be a part of this.
Oh, you're too kind.
That means the world to both me and Ty, and I will talk for Ty on that.
Yeah,
on his behalf.
You're too kind.
That means amazing. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
You guys are the bomb, and any way we can keep chicken picking guitar alive, guys, we got to do it.
Amen.
So,
well, absolutely.
I'm going to take you guys on the little Camp Hiland tour. So let's see if I can figure out a way to see my buttons down here. I can flip you all around. All right. It's still a little dark down here, guys, especially in the nighttime. But on my walls, all are things that inspire me. Of course, my poster and a signed Redneck Jazz. It's actually an autographed Danny Gatton Redneck Jazz Explosion. And then the G3 poster from when I played with G3, which is great. And, of course, if I move you around, I actually have a bathroom, guys, connected to my studio, which is great. Mr. Ricky Skaggs on the wall, and, of course, the great Stevie Ray. And then I have a hat and sunglasses from Sammy Hagar on the wall, guys. You just can't see it.
That's awesome.
But here, the magic, here's where all the magic happens, guys. Here is the new Camp Hiland studio, and yes, that is it. It's everything happens right there, and that's where the new Chatham Sessions record has been created and will be released in September. So start down here with the pedal board. You guys being gearheads, I'm sure you'll love this. Let me show you guys what I'm currently running down here.
Oh, it's very hard to see, unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
That's okay. I see some pedals.
But anyway, Greer, love it. And yeah, it got dark quick on us, guys. But of course, here's the Roland V drums,
Mhm.
TD17 KVXs. All the drums
Very
on
nice.
this album. Roland keyboards over here. And I wish I had a way to show you guys my amps, but it's so dark. There's there's the Paco Pascal Better amp
Nice.
and a Bass Cowboy. And I'm sorry, guys, it's so dark in here. Gracious.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that, guys. But there's
No, it's okay.
a Jefferson 100 there and a Reeves Space Cowboy with an Avatar 212. So, sorry, you guys can't see that better.
I love those Avatar cabinets.
Yep.
Oh, man, they're incredible. They really are. Wished I had a way to get some more light. But, yeah, man, that's the rig I'm using and all Sennheiser microphones. The good old 906 down there on it, guys. So, yeah, this is where the magic happens. And but, yeah, I did want to share this with everybody, guys. So thanks for allowing me to do that.
Oh, no
Certainly.
problem.
Our pleasure.
No problem. Maybe we can take a look at a couple of your guitars.
We will do it.
Awesome.
Yep. We want to hear all about your Kiesel signature model.
Oh, man, you're going to get me on a subject that hope you guys got a couple more hours.
We have as long as you have.
Hey, I'm just enjoying this so much, letting everybody see what's going on here. Because, man, the new Camp Hiland studio, guys, is just, it's a blind guy's dream. It is. So, really, really proud of that little studio, and I have to thank Brother KT for making that all happen for me.
That's cool.
So, I'll tell you what, guys, I'll take you back to where we were seated, where there's light, and I'll bring in a couple of guitars and let y'all see them.
This is great.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You know, I can take you through the whole Johnny collection, but we've got 4 hours. All right. I think we're finally getting back to the resting spot here. So if you guys will excuse me, I'll go grab us some guitars.
Awesome.
We'll say hello to a few more people in the chat. Ben Coombs is here. Hey, Ben. Good to see you. Johnny Bean is here. Good to see you, Johnny. Will Van Hand Solo, great guitar player. He's joined us tonight.
Really great guitar player.
Bull Hunter 45 is out for the evening. Good night, and thank you for joining us. Danny Alexander, thank you, sir. And Krellbar's here. I don't remember us saying hello.
Krellbar's he's a big contributor on the Johnny Bean show. He's always in the chat and has always something cool to say. Good guy.
The name of the night, Damp Taco Lover, has arrived. We'd welcome.
Gotta love that.
Ben Coombs, Johnny is the guy who inspired me to try chicken picking. I hear you. Ben, keep trying, man. Keep trying. Yeah, Johnny. So how close are the Mike Varney Studios to you?
Oh, way out in California, buddy.
Johnny Hiland, I was actually speaking to Johnny Bean that's in the chat. I think he's in Santa Cruz, and I was curious as to how he mentioned that he knew those studios well, and I was asking him how close they were.
You know, guys, the funny thing is, when I went out to Katati to do All Fired Up, my biggest fan base in the country that I know of is Northern California. So I love it out there, and my second mom and dad, Tom and Sarah Finn, live out there. So I love playing out there in Durnville and Mill Valley, and so that was my first time in Katati, but I really had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. 51 Fly Guy, hello. David Ennis, hello, sir.
Hey, Dave Ennis. Hey, 5150 Fly Guy. Johnny Bean says it's 2.5 hours away from him.
Oh, wow. That's actually not that bad, brother. You could be at Prairie Sun in no time.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny, have you recorded there? Johnny Bean, have you recorded there?
Well, actually, while we wait for his answer, Let's see some guitars, huh, Johnny?
All right, brother. Well, you know what?
Oh,
They
cool.
asked me about my number one, brother, but I don't know if I have that in this batch I just brought in here. One of them I'll share with you guys is this, though. This is my latest Johnny Hiland model JH6. This
gorgeous.
is my Silver Sparkle girlfriend.
I love
Gorgeous.
She
Silver
is
Sparkle.
beautiful, man, and I'm so proud of it. And it's got the new roasted maple neck that Kiesel does now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Beautiful.
I love
That's beautiful.
my sweet Kimmy girl. Hand me some guitar.
Hey, Johnny, what's the body wood on that guitar? Do you know? Swamp ash.
Swamp ash.
What about the
I'll share
radius?
this.
What about the radius of the fretboard?
It's the Johnny model comes standard with a 10. Here, this is my red one. You can actually see
That's
that
beautiful.
you can see the swamp ash really well in this one.
Now, that's a satin finish? Yes.
Yes, it's called a raw tone finish.
That's beautiful.
Guys, I love Kiesel guitars. This is actually the standard Johnny model that when you call Kiesel guitars and say you want a Johnny model, this one is $15.99 US.
Nice.
And I don't know how, I swear, man, Kiesel guitars are the best US custom made guitars for the best prices, guys. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an endorser. I mean it. These guitars are the bomb diggity.
Wow. Well, they certainly are beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Well,
I've never actually played one, so I don't have an opinion, but they're certainly beautiful.
let me share one that's been on my gospel record. It's all over the new Christmas record. This is and actually I'll share this funny story before I show it. I was actually going to the CAS show, the Chet Atkins Appreciation Society, and I made the comment to Jeff. I said, I'd love to take a Kiesel SH550 in Gretschville because Chet played Gretsch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, man, that'd be great, dude. Send Summer NAMM show, and you can take it to Cass and then just send it back to us. And I said, well, man, make one that kind of has a cool rockabilly vibe to it that's kind of neat. And so, man, when they brought this guitar to NAMM, I loved it so much. The minute I touched it, I went home to Kimmy and I said, baby, I'm robbing the bank account. I got to have this guitar. So it's been on every Johnny record since and probably always will be, but it's a Kiesel SH550 in seafoam green.
Wow.
Oh, Lord, look at that.
That is beautiful.
This thing, and it's got an acoustic piezo in it. So I can split between the pickups and the acoustic pickup and really, really get those old Chet and Merle Travis kind of tones. So it's got a maple neck, which Jeff knows I love, and he put big black block inlay in it. And the back of the neck is actually mahogany.
Wow. Maple on mahogany. Holy crap.
Yes, it's Honduras mahogany. It's just beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Here is prototype 2 of the Johnny Hiland model. This is Whiskey Brown. This is prototype 2.
Gorgeous.
Wow. Oh, my God. Look at that. Look at that. Man.
And of
Gorgeous.
course, United States, good old USA flag on there because I've been doing a lot of stuff with the U.S. Army.
That's awesome.
Guys, being
Gorgeous.
2 actually has a 5-piece neck.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Beautiful.
maple
I'm sorry, maple and what?
and walnut.
Nice. Now, what's the back of the neck shape? What can you describe that to us?
Oh, it's a 10-inch radius on the front with stainless steel medium jumbo frets. And the back of the neck feels very, I've got the thinner neck profile because I have fingers.
Right.
So this was prototype 2, Whiskey Brown. Now, baby, I'm going to hand you this one. And I want you to hand me prototype 3. This is Whitewash.
Beautiful.
Oh, look at that.
Beautiful.
And it's got a flag on her as well. But if you guys have seen the videos I did with the U.S. Army, I was playing this very guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Really, and this has got a 5-piece maple and walnut as well. Jeff Kiesel was really the guy to teach me that 5-piece necks are actually more stable than just regular rock maple, which I was quite surprised by.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the truth.
I'll tell you
Actually,
what.
the more pieces of wood, the more stable it is.
Oh yeah, man, it's incredible. And I gotta say, guys, these you guys are seeing like the full array of Johnny models here, but Kimmy's pulling out one right now that this is a pretty special guitar to me. This is, oh yeah, this happens to be my heavy rock guitar, but it's one that I found on the Kiesel website in the guitars in stock section, which anybody can go on kieselguitars.com and look in the guitars in stock. But when I saw this, it was one Jeff had, I think, made for the NAMM show, the Winter NAMM show. And when I saw it, I had to have this. But look how gorgeous this guitar is. This is my Aries.
What a neck.
That's just amazing looking.
Look at this body, boys.
Good night.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's some flame.
It's beautiful.
That's on fire.
Chevron maple. So it's a chevron maple top with koa back and sides.
Oh, wow.
And then it has a 5-piece neck that is walnut and maple. So it's reverse of the Johnny model in the neck.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
then
gorgeous.
The fretboard, it's got a matching headstock, of course, with the maple, chevron maple. But the fingerboard is actually African zebra wood.
Yeah, I was just going to say it looks like zebra wood to me.
It
Beautiful.
is real loom inlay, diamond inlay. So
Gorgeous.
this, you stand outside with this thing for 3 seconds and walk in, this neck lights up bright blue. So it's really, really cool. A very, very beautiful guitar.
By the way, thanks, Kimmy, for helping show the guitars.
You're welcome.
She's such a sweet. Really is.
I don't know if I got them back in the case right.
That's all right, darling. I'll figure all that out.
Bull Hunter 45 says, hello, Kimmy.
Yes, Kimmy is such a sweetheart. And she does I'll tell you guys, if it weren't for her, I couldn't do Facebook Lives. She reads all the comments and kind of helps co-host it with me. And I think God love her. All the fans love her as much as they love me, and I'm grateful for that. She's such a doll, and half the time she doesn't like to be on the camera at all, but she's such a sweetheart. She really is. Baby,
that guitar's getting lots of compliments.
Mhm.
Larry Mitchell says that rocks. Ron Padgett says that he wants that. Desiree says how beautiful that is.
Yeah.
I have been very, very blessed by the Kiesel family, guys, and I'm going to be honest with you. We have such an amazing guitar community, all in all. I mean, but to be honest with you, the Kiesel family are literally the best family that I have found in the whole guitar industry. They are obviously formerly carbon guitars, but man, I'll tell you, Jeff is running things, and his dad's still there. You know, it's just amazing the family heritage that goes into this company, but their passion for making the absolute best guitars on the planet is second to none, and I'm just so proud to be with that family. They're just amazing folks. And I do believe that selling direct via kieselguitars.com or calling 858-GUITARS, they can give you the absolute best price on a guitar, more so than any other company on the planet. So definitely check them out, guys, if you haven't yet, because I promise you, you will not get just one Kiesel. You'll buy the first one, and then you'll be back for more. I can let you know that.
Wow.
I look forward to trying one.
You know, boys, I'll say this. I'm an endorser, but I still buy Kiesel guitars. I have my own model, and yes, they've blessed me with some of them. And but I'll be honest, guys, if I go to an NAMM show and I see a Kiesel I fall in love with, I buy that booger, man. I love supporting the family, and I love I'm not afraid to let Jeff know when I fall in love with something. I just got to have it, and I'm not afraid to lay money down with Kiesel because they're worth every penny.
Well, that's cool. Now, Johnny, forgive me if you don't want to do this, but I'd rather ask for forgiveness instead of asking for permission. Do you want to maybe talk about that guitar that you showed me on in our private message yesterday that you're looking to get rid of?
Well, I will actually tell folks what it is. I actually have a 2010 Gibson Les Paul Historic R7 at the top, and it's been one of my studio guitars. It's played on a lot of records, but it's got Electric City Pickups RD59s in it, and it's got a Martin 6-string Customs Holy Grail harness with original 50s Sprague bumblebees in it. And it's been one of my major workhorses, but yet the guitar is absolutely mint. I've got all the case candy and everything. I'm letting it go for $3,500 if anyone's interested. But since I saw a Kiesel single cut, I can't put that guitar down now. So the Les Paul's got to go.
I understand. Wow. Yeah. So anyone in the chat, if you're looking to have Johnny's personal 57 reissue Les Paul gold top, that's been on every record since 2013. Johnny tells me.
Yep.
I'm sure we can get a certificate of authenticity from Johnny that it's his.
Yep.
And please let me know, and I'll get in touch with Johnny, or let Ty know. We can get in touch with Johnny. We can get him your information and get it off to you. Oh, sure. And listen, if I didn't buy 3 guitars in the last 2 weeks myself, I would buy it myself.
Hey, brother, I appreciate that. And most people are like, gosh, man, why would you let go of your Paul? But honestly, guys, the Kiesel single cut that I have is a beast of a guitar. And it's set up for, it's laid out for guys that play more of a T-style like I do. And it's just, I've just so fallen in love with it that I actually told Jeff Kiesel that I was going to sell that R7. So he knows about it. So it's okay for me to mention that I'm selling it. So there you go.
Okay, good. Very good. Excellent. So if anyone in the chat contacts either Ty or myself, we will let you know, and we'll get that ball rolling for you.
Appreciate that, brother. I really do.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure.
Damn Taco Lover says that he has a Kiesel Vader, one of the best guitars he owns.
Yes. Rock on, man.
Bozique is here. Hello, Bozique. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yes, and Bozique, thank you for subscribing. I saw that you subscribed to the channel the other day. Thank you so much.
Hey, look, guys, I'm going to tell everybody that's watching out there, even if you see this video later, these guys are 2 of the bomb diggities in this business right now because they're helping to keep guitar music alive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Johnny.
Well, it's
friends, all your fans, everybody, make those guys subscribe to these guys' channel. It's incredible.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's guys like you that help this channel, and it's guys like Ty that I couldn't do this without Ty Price. He's the best partner anyone could ever have.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you. Cheers.
You're pretty awesome, man. You and Dave both.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you.
Do this.
Yeah. So we're at 10:08. You still want to tell some stories, or you want to?
Go, sure.
Okay. Well, so we covered the gear. Let's talk about the new record. How's that coming?
It is actually ready to be mixed. I have tracked all of the songs. There's going to be 12 songs on this new album. And guys, I am literally splattering myself as a person all out in an open format for you guys. I'm playing every instrument on it. I'm singing all the tracks, all the harmony vocals. I'm doing everything myself on this record. And it's basically me just laying out all of myself to you. And it's actually going to be called the Chatham Sessions because the whole album was done in Camp Highland Studios. It's all of me, and I just wanted to give you guys a chance to hear something different from me that's not your common Johnny Hiland record.
Mm-hmm. So, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, I'm so excited for y'all to hear it, man. I told Dave and Ty I'm going to have to send them some preliminary, tracks while I'm in the mixing process and give them a little taste of it before y'all get to hear it. So,
what a treat! Johnny, I'm dying to ask you a couple of questions about your gospel album, Picking for the Lord. You talked earlier about an artist that I'm from the South, so gospel music.
Yes.
And church hymns are near and dear to me, and have been a part of my, been a part of my fabric since
Yes,
I
sir.
can remember. And you mentioned one of my favorite voices in gospel music earlier, in Gary Chapman, and
Oh, yes.
I mean, he's got one of the best recorded voices in any genre of music. But you did a record last year called "Picking for the Lord," where you recorded some favorite hymns. And you brought some of your friends along on the record. And tell us about the vision for that record, how that came about, and how you went about choosing the hymns for the record.
Ty, I'll say this, brother. In getting into a conversation about this album, first of all, as I shared with you guys, Blake Padilla was a boy I met out at Ducati when I was cutting off Fired Up, and really talked that boy into moving to Nashville. Obviously became a dear family friend to me. I consider the boy family. I love him to death, and really do feel he's one of the best engineers, just like Dallin, just like Jim Lightman, Jason DeTavio, who did my All Fired Up album, and of course Neil Citron, who did the first album with Vi on Vi's label. But to be honest, he's just become such a dear friend. And we were chatting on the phone one night, and I just said, Blake, one of the things I've always wanted to do, man, was make a gospel record. And I said, man, I have hymns that I sang in church growing up. I've got my grandparents. I'd love to just do something for the family, remember my grand folks and do my mom and dad's favorite gospel tune. And so we started talking, and I said, would you have any time or interest in helping me with that album? And he's like, absolutely, man. And I said, well, Blake, the other reason I'm asking you too, man, is, your studio, the Fresh Factory, here again, an amazing studio that has such a great homey vibe. You can be open and creative in there. It's just absolutely incredible. And I said, brother, you can't do a gospel record without having some great keyboards on there. And he just started laughing. He said, oh, so you want me to engineer and play all the B3 and piano? I said, you got it, son. And I said, you got some BGVs to do on there too, background vocals. So anyway, I went in the studio with him and the boys in my band, Bruce Guttridge on drums, TJ Armstrong on bass. And we just started tracking from scratch, man. I'd show the boys a tune, we'd lay it down. And the record came together so quickly, but it was right during the time when Kimmy and I made the decision to leave Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I said, look, if I'm going to leave Nashville, which was always my dream to be in Nashville, and I said, now after 22 years, I finally decided to leave town because of all the changes in the city growing and country music changing and all that. I said, man, I want to call in a lot of my buds on this record and really, really leave town with a record that I'm going to be so proud of. And so I called Brent Mason and Greg Martin from the Kentucky Headhunters.
Love that band.
Oh, they're amazing.
Jack Pearson.
Love Jack.
And then, of course, Hargus Pickens, world-renowned piano player, most recorded piano player in Nashville history, just like Brent is on guitar. And of course, I know I'm probably leaving somebody. John Jorgensen. Oh, my gracious.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Good gracious. But, thinking spur of the moment, it's like you don't want to leave anybody out,
Phil Kagi?
Phil Kagi's on there. Yeah, man. I mentioned him earlier. I had to make sure of that. Brother Phil is insane. And there is a YouTube video of, I used to do shows in Nashville for a fundraiser called Inspire America that my manager had involvement in and helped start, actually. And we did a lot of Johnny and Friends shows. And there's a video of Phil and I on stage together at 3rd and Lindsley that's just a lot of fun. And but I asked Phil to be on that record, and we just did some fun songs, man. We did Living Up on the Mountain was a song that my uncle used to sing to me when I was a little kid, and I'd sing it in church with him. And then Greg Martin and I did What a Friend We Have in Jesus, blues style. And then, of course, it went on to Brent and I playing I Saw the Light. And then I did my own version of 2 guitars split in stereo doing Old Rugged Cross. That was my grandparents' favorite gospel hymn.
My favorite hymn too. And just, I mean, it just, It was a showstopper on the record for me.
Oh, thank you, man. Well, that is Old Rugged Cross will always be one of my faves too. Ty, I can totally understand why you feel that way, bro. But I think and then of course, having Jack Pearson do "Oh Happy Day" with me.
That was great. Yeah.
Tom Bresch did "Old Time Religion." We did a swing version of "Old Time Religion," and Bresch just tore up the flat top, man. That old thumb style, Travis style he does, man. It's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, gosh, man, which one did Phil and I do? I'm forgetting.
Just a Closer Walk.
Just a Closer Walk. Thank you, brother. And
Yeah.
man, Phil's tone on that was just like, it was just tearing me up. And then Jorgensen, I brought him in on Walking in Jerusalem.
That was
and then
amazing.
Farther along, man. So it was just such a great record to do. I really did the record for me deep within here because I always wanted to do a record to give thanks to the good Lord just for the gift of music, man. Just to be able to. And then to have all my buds come in and play on it. And then, of course, having the boys in my band and Blake on it and having us, having Blake and I have the time to mix this thing together and, me sleeping on an air mattress in his bedroom, man. It was just so much fun. But then it was also very sad because I was leaving all my buds,
Yeah.
Kind of like our big last hurrah in Nashville. And then Blake's like, so, dude, we should, when we did the crowdfunding for the gospel record, I said, folks, if we have enough money, we'll do a Christmas record.
Yeah.
And I told Blake, I said, dude, let's team up like Joey and Danny did, on the Relentless album. I said, Joey DeFrancesco and Danny Gatton. I said, but let's do Christmas music, man, just you and me and have some fun. So we went down with that record, and it was such fun too, man. And so both records came out in 2019, but the Christmas record came out real soft because on a soft release. We only released it digitally because we released it so close to Christmas that it was like nobody had time to really want to buy it and listen to Christmas music when it was over, So we're pushing it to the Guitar Mags this year and stuff, and hopefully we'll have a good release for the Christmas album. But just so proud of both of those albums, Ty and Dave. They're just, they were so fun to make.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's awesome.
I know there's a lot of people that say, well, once you do the Christmas record and the gospel record, your career's over, man. And I'm like, no, that's not true.
No way.
Mm-mm.
No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it either. I mean, so many people have done Christmas records that they're, like take Brian Setzer for instance. He's done 2 Christmas records and he's putting records out since then. And he's got a brand new guitar out. He just keeps going.
Man, Setzer is another one of those guys, man. My hat's off to him, man. Because really, he has been another guy that's really kept Danny Gatton alive too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can hear a lot of Danny in his playing.
Yeah, he does have a lot of Danny, yeah.
I mean, the Travis picking technique and it's just it's next level.
Yeah, I mean it's rock and roll, but it's still got that thing. It still has that thing,
I love how he mixes Danny Gatton, jazz, western swing, and rockabilly all together.
He's incredible.
That is one of my guitar heroes I've not had the chance to play with yet, but I'd love to.
Well,
we've got some questions in here. Our friend BV from Switzerland says, Johnny, can you talk a little bit about your own songwriting process? What comes first, a melody idea or question mark?
That's a real good question, brother. And I think any songwriter of any caliber, whether you're a vocal song, you write vocal tunes or you write instrumentals, they come to you as blessings in so many different ways. I've had songs that have hit me with one lick, and I'm like, oh, I got to go write that right now. And the song happens in 10 minutes. And I've also had songs that have been, work on them for a year, and it's just a dragged out process where you start writing a melody, but you're like, that's only one lick to the melody. There's got to be more. And over time, it develops and slowly develops. And sometimes you might cut that song 3 or 4 times before it actually grows legs and takes on a life of its own, So my process usually starts with a good melody line, something that sticks in my head. And I'll go, yep, that'd make a pretty cool tune. And most of the time, I almost write words to it first, even though it's just an instrumental. But I just think it's the songwriting process is all over the map. I've written a song that was just based on chord shapes, and I wrote it on a napkin at a Bojangles restaurant. I've had some that have lasted a couple of years to write. So the process, brother, I don't know if I could actually give you a magic formula. I think you just start off with a good melody and you just go from there. I hope that satisfies answers your question, brother.
Sure.
Bozique would like to know, what was it like jamming with Sammy Hagar?
Absolutely off the hook, man. Sammy Hagar is one of my favorite people in the world because he is so up on life, man. He's the happiest guy I've ever met. And, of course, he is a man that loves what he does and is just so tickled to be able to play music. And, of course, he shows that to every fan. He loves all of his fans. I think Sammy Hagar really is the epitome of what any artist needs to be or should be. And so I really hold Sammy as the guy to give an example to folks as what a real artist should be, because Sammy is that. Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't even care if you don't make any money. He does it just for the love of the music.
He was just so fun to hang with. I mean, I played the Sweetwater out in Mill Valley, and he and Mona and a couple other Wabos showed up, and man, they got up on stage with me and had a blast. It was just a ball. And then, of course, he invited me to a Super Bowl rehearsal he was doing, and then to Lake Tahoe, to Tahoe Wabo, and that's where I played with him out there. And just absolutely, of course, then he invited me to a Van Halen show before he left the band. But I love Sammy Hagar. I don't get to talk to him that much. He's so busy. But Sammy, if you're watching, brother, I'm ready to jam again. Give this old boy a call.
Well, we'll try to get on the phone with him afterwards.
I love it. Bull Hunter 45 says the gospel album is inspiring to listen to. Very blessed.
Thank you, brother.
Headstock Harem, question for Johnny. Favorite guitar technique? Is it tapping? Is it chicken picking? Is it something else? Favorite technique? What's your go-to?
Definitely chicken picking, man. Definitely. And, I was asked this question yesterday, so I'm just going to let this out. When I talk about chicken picking, what you need to do to get into it, if you're kind of salivating, wanting to try chicken picking and you don't know what to do, you grab onto one bluegrass lick and you grow that bluegrass lick, and then you add a steel bend to it, and then that's it. It just starts this momentum. And once you hit that first steel guitar lick and that bluegrass lick, it's on like a pot of neck bones, boys and girls. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Our good friend and fellow Telecaster aficionado Ben Coombs says,
reading my mind.
Has Johnny worked with Vince Gill at all?
Absolutely, man. I did a track on Loud and Proud called Chicken Pickin' Heroes, where I invited Ricky Skaggs, him, and Steve Wariner to come in the studio because I wrote the song about them. And now there is an example of a song that I was actually in a hotel room with Kimmy on the way back from a road date. She and I branched off, went to Virginia for a few days, and on the way home from Nashville, we stopped at a hotel to get some sleep, and we wrote that song in 15 minutes. And I literally called Ricky, Vince, and Steve, and I said, man, I'd be honored if you guys would come play on this. I wrote a song for you guys. And they all came in, and Vince and I have been buds ever since. I love him to death. And he is, we did a show, it was 12-12-12 at TPAC, where we raised money to help all the flood victims in Nashville when they lost all the guitars and stuff.
That was the worst. That was the worst. I know Vince lost about 50 instruments.
Yeah, man. And they were all vintage tellies and stuff. It was just heartbreaking. I happened to call over to Glazier's the day after, and Vince was just in tears over there, and I felt so bad. I luckily enough didn't have any guitars over at sound check, or I forget which one it was. But a lot of guys lost so much gear, and so we did a show at TPAC, and Vince hosted, and I was a part of that. And Steve Wariner was on. So, But Vince and I have had a chance to do a few things together, and I just love him to death, man. Great guy.
Johnny, I got to ask you, we got a lot of different types of players that tune in and watch this show, both live and in replay.
Sure.
And if there's a player that decides to, they say they want to pack their Pontiac and they want to head to Nashville. What advice do you give them?
First thing I would say is this. No matter what changes happen in any town of music, don't ever give up on your dream. Don't give up on your dream if you're handicapped like me, or if you're perfectly sighted and everything is good and you're fully blessed. Don't ever give up on your dream, and don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something, because I'm proof positive that you can. And to be frankly honest, guys, I would just recommend that if you have a goal and a dream to move to Nashville or Austin or New York City or LA, don't let anybody stand in your way. Go do it. I mean, the worst case scenario is you get there and find out that it's not for you. And even after 22 years like me, you make a change. It's okay. Establish yourself, create as many fans as you can for what you do, and then go for it. But just don't ever stop. This industry is huge. And if you come from a small town like me, where you become a big fish in a small pond, and then you move to Nashville and you become one of many, many fish in a giant, huge lake, or whatever, you have to realize there's a lot of people that want the same thing you do, but your dream is your dream. So you need to follow through with it and do a lot of praying and a lot of playing and woodshedding as much as you can, and just hone your craft the whole time. Look, I've played guitar for 43 years of my life, and I'm still learning. I'm still taking lessons myself. I'm still, but I'm still teaching, and I'm still doing True Fire, and I'm still doing everything I can in the guitar realm. Because as most of you know, when I was a kid, Steve Vai was playing arenas. And by the time I played with G3, they were at the Ryman Auditorium, which is obviously still not a very bad place to play.
Yeah.
Smaller than an arena.
Yeah.
But what happened was the emphasis of the guitar player went away, and it became guys like Michael Jordan and Dale Earnhardt Jr. And so the emphasis of the guitar player kind of went away. But all of us guitar players, even the ones that are watching at home, even watching this show at a later date, we're all doing our level best to keep guitar music alive. But together, we can do it. Alone, we can't.
Amen.
That's very well said. Very
Amen.
well said. My lovely fiance, Miss Desiree, has a question for you, Johnny.
Sure.
Out of all the people who you've played with so far, which person made the biggest impact on you?
Oh, wow. That's a very hard question to answer. I mean, I'm going to say Ricky Skaggs, just for the fact that he has been my overall hero for all these years. He's a good Christian man. He loves everybody. He's had massive success. And yet he's been so humble and so kind through it all. I have so many heroes, though, guys, and I've been so blessed not only to have my own career in the business, but to become friends with a lot of my heroes. Les Paul would call me on the phone. Noki Edwards and I were phone buddies. Ronnie Montrose and I were talked on the phone twice a week.
That's amazing.
So and there's so many that I had a relationship with as friends, not just guitar peers or peers in the business. We became friends. And so, Les Paul, was another one. Sammy Hagar is another one. Billy Gibbons is another one. Vince Gill. I mean, I could name you just hundreds of names of all these people that have influenced me over the years, but really had an impact on me on a personal level as well. So thank you for your question, Des, and I think that's an amazing question, and you kind of stumped me on that, girl. I got to say.
Well, one day you'll meet her. She's as amazing. She's just an amazing person, just like your Kimmy to you. She's been my rock. We've been together for 3 years, and we're getting married in August. And she's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Well, I'm going to say this, guys. I almost literally, and I can't almost, because I'm going to actually say this. I think my real, true, personal hero through this whole journey of mine has been Kimmy. Because out of all the stars and all the friends and all the things, the tour dates and the bands and the road practices, rehearsals, this lady of mine of 16 years, married 15, but together 16, we met at Robert's Western World when I was playing with Don. We started dating in May of 2004, bought our house, and I was engaged in August, bought our house in November, and was married the next April.
Wow.
Been with me for 15 years, and I don't know how that girl puts up with this old hairy-legged guitar picker.
That's awesome. What a great story. Just, it's unbelievable.
I don't know how she puts up with me, boys. I swear.
Well, God bless her.
Yeah, God bless her, man.
You know what? God bless all the women that deal with us guitar pickers.
Yes.
Especially, you know, I mean, I can only talk for myself because at this right now, because you know, I have a very bad habit, and that's buying guitars, and my lovely fiance puts up with it. So,
all right, I got to tell you guys how cool Kim is just for 1 second. Back in the day when I was with PRS Guitars, I had always wanted to have the vintage thing for that company. And we went into Guitar Center one afternoon, and a buddy of mine walked in and he said, "Hey, Johnny, a 1980, I want to say 6 or 88, I forget now, Custom 24 just came in, dude. All original, got the old style tuners on it. Dude, you got to look at this guitar." And man, he put it in my hands, and I instantly fell in love with it. I said, "Oh my gosh, man, it's so cool." Kimmy had her purse drugged all over that floor. Change, checking her wallet, calling the bank. She bought that guitar for me right on the spot and drug her whole purse out to make sure we had enough money to get it.
Oh,
Great, man.
That's an amazing story.
That's an amazing wife, man.
That's just you know, you know, you got a partner for life when they buy you guitars.
She from a show, and I said, "Darling, they just brought out that Kiesel SH550, and I have got to have it." I walked her into the show, showed it to her, and she just went, "There's the money. Boom, get it." I said, "Boys, I know you got to leave it here till the end of the damn show, but make sure that case gets in my hand on the way out the door."
That's beautiful.
That's great.
Best wife in the world, no doubt.
That's beautiful.
And if you guys were to ask her, Kimmy would say the funniest thing for her would be when I say, "Hey, babe, it's not so much the guitar she has a problem with, it's the pedals." Because to me, I'll say, "Oh my God, honey, I just found this most amazing pedal." She's like, "Oh, it's going to change your life. It's going to make you it's going to inspire you to write new Johnny tunes. And it's going to make your life so much better and just improve your tone 150,000%. Just go ahead and buy the damn thing."
That's so funny. So funny that you bring up pedals, because that has been my newest passion.
Oh,
this past I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh.
I had a computer desk here, and now it's a pedal board with a computer on it.
Oh. So talk about you, man. Are you into that obsession too?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's crazy. Absolutely.
That's all it is. We're guitarded.
My wife and I have been married 20 years. She sees the boxes. She doesn't even ask anymore. It's just a passive event at this point.
So you see, boys, the problem is with me though, is I love watches. I collect watches.
Mm-hmm.
And especially big giant ones. Like this one's from Kimmy. It's a TW steel, but you can see, I don't know if you can see how big it is. It's huge. But I have an obsession with watches, ball caps, and obviously guitars and effects pedals. So
that's something else.
Kimmy's just like, "Look, when you give a lesson, the PayPal's going to mama for bills."
There you go. There you go. You know, it's funny you mentioned watches too, because I had a watch obsession maybe about, I don't know, 15 years ago. my dad loves watches, and I want to, I love my dad, so I was like, watches. Maybe I should buy some. So I bought a Breitling, a Super Avenger. I paid like $4,500 for it, and it was great. I loved it. It was my everyday watch, and until it needed to be serviced, and like on a Ferrari, you buy a Ferrari for $300,000. The oil change is going to be $20,000. Well, this oil change was $800, and I was like, I can't afford that every few years. So I sold the watch, and my watch obsession stopped.
Did you hear what I just did, brother? I just hollered to Kimmy and said, "Dave spent $4,500 on a watch."
Well, I thought I was like my dad, but apparently I'm not.
Brother, I gotta say, I've got a Breitling, and I used to get into Renato's, and I'm a massive Invicta watch fan. I love Invictas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But my new obsession now is TW Steel. I'm really into those. So, and I gotta say, boys, old '80s style big face digital watches I love too. And a digi.
Nice, yeah. How about that big yellow Casio that the guy, slap shot? It was sitting on a puck, and how about that thing? Yellow plastic or yellow rubber?
Yes, man, I am totally obsessed. I've got the cheapest Casios, Timexes, Armatrons. I mean, I just love watches.
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah, we have a lot in common, boys. That's for sure.
Yeah, we certainly do. Johnny, I got to tell you, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, and I would love to do a part 2 with you at some point when you feel like you're ready to do it.
Absolutely.
I think I speak for Ty as well, because you've quickly become one of our great friends. I consider you a brother. I know we met just recently, but the stories that we've exchanged and just the love we have for music and guitars and everything else, I feel like the three of us are close, and that we've brought you closer to the people that watch us as well. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on the show tonight.
Sincerely. Thank you, Johnny.
Ty, I'll tell you what, man, you and Dave are the bomb diggity, and I just want to tell everybody out there again how important it is to subscribe to this channel. And I now have a brand new YouTube channel too, so you got to jump over to me, because you never know. I think Dave and Ty might have to come on my YouTube channel.
I would be, yeah. I'm sure. Again, me and Ty, we'd have a pleasure. I can't even talk. Of course,
would love it.
I'm just so enamored with guitar, and I got to say, boys, since joining the Kiesel family, I have never been more blessed in my life to actually have a guitar home. I know, there's been all kinds of rumors all over the internet, naysayers and stuff, negative willies that are all, Johnny's a gear whore, this, that, and the other. No, I'm really not. I've been a guy that has relied on my endorsers all through the years because I wasn't a man of money. And I just want to set that record straight on the show with you boys, because, hey, we just get real with it. And to be honest with you guys, I'm not really that way. Like, for an example, Elixir Strings. I've been with Elixir Strings for over 20 years. I've been with a lot of my endorsers for a long time, and I've been such a blessed man. But, guys, on top of the endorsement, literally takes friends like all the folks watching on here. And Dave, you and Ty both, man, and there's just so many great folks now, even with the COVID thing going on. We've gotten a lot hipper to social media, to YouTube channels like this. We've got to do everything we can to keep guitar alive. And I just want everybody to know, it takes every one of you to keep my guitar career alive, because I rely on you guys every day. This is not an easy business to be in, but having friends like y'all just allow this big old boy to do what I do. So
Johnny, real quick, our buddy Rob Welch from Tessie Switch is in the chat as well. He builds kill switches for guitars.
Cool.
So maybe we should get you in touch with him. Maybe you should put a kill switch in one of your guitars for the next record.
Now, guys, I'm a big Tom Morello fan too. So you mean the kind where you can get, do his kind of skipping thing that he does?
Yeah, absolutely. What happens is it's like an arcade button that you press and it stops the sound of your guitar, so you go beep 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 beep, beep, that type of thing.
Oh boy, don't I tell you what, Adna, it's funny. I have not had a chance to sit down with Steve Stevens yet and ask how he got those ray gun sounds, man.
They're real ray guns. They're plastic toy ray guns.
Yeah, but you guys, look, I got so many friends on here. You guys are both brothers to me, so I'm just going to share this with you. You know what gun I found for my guitars that didn't seem to make a flip, but yet I used it on my True Fire? This one.
Oh, it's cool looking.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Excuse me. Next time,
So
next time I'll warn you when I do that.
I tell folks when I hit a bad note on live Facebook or on my True Fire video, I'll say, boys, that note sounded just like. How real can
Oh,
right?
my God. Johnny Bean, you need to get one of those. He'll probably say, I have one on Friday nights. It's you, Dave.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious. But
That's
hey,
awesome.
music has got to be fun. So we need to do everything we can to keep it fun and keep guitar alive. And the fact is, guys, you have to come on Facebook on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My wife and I do a Facebook Live. Make sure you come get a Johnny t-shirt and a bumper sticker. Actually, I got to send you boys one of these. Here's the Johnny bumper sticker right here. It's chicken picking rules.
Look at that.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. That goes on my main guitar case right there.
Yeah, Brother Christopher Davis and his brother got those for me, and I love them. And so I'll make sure you guys get those and a Johnny Hiland t-shirt. So
love it.
So,
Thank you, Johnny.
So Rob from Tessie Switch says, I'd be honored to work with Johnny on a kill switch. So you'll have your own signature kill switch.
Dude, we might have to put one in my Aries. That thing would be awesome.
Yeah, you think?
Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Cool.
Have that Kiesel tram, man, and that kill switch, dude. That would be the bomb.
That really would be.
Yeah.
So Johnny, I'm gonna end the show, but stay here. Don't leave yet. We'll have a little after party for a couple minutes.
Fantastic. Well,
Johnny, thank you so much.
Yeah. So okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this special Monday night with Johnny Hiland. Check us out this Thursday. We'll have Andy Alendort on our show, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be talking about his new book, Texas Flood. It's the Stevie Ray Vaughan book. I'm sure we'll be able to maybe get him to talk about some guitars, and he'll show some guitars off and tell us about some of the bands he's played with, like, I don't know, maybe Jimi Hendrix's band, part of the Experience, part of the Band of Gypsies, Double Trouble, the Dickie Betts Band, the Allman Brothers. Well, I think we can get him to talk about that stuff. So that's this Thursday night at 8 p.m. right here on NEZ SEZ. Those of you, everyone in the chat, I know I didn't really mention it much this evening, but if you feel gracious enough to dip into the pockets and put a little coin in the virtual tip jar, it's PayPal and Venmo at dnrwb5150@aol.com. And again, it's not mandatory, but if you're feeling saucy, you can help us out by keeping this channel alive.
Absolutely.
And I, on behalf of Ty and myself and
Thank
Mr. Johnny Hiland, I want to say thank you so much, and good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.